here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
You know, there are some weeks that are just better than others, are there not? And regardless of your affiliation with any of the teams here in downtown Indianapolis for tonight and then ones that are left over coming up on Sunday, this is one hell of a weekend. As I mentioned yesterday, we started out at Joe's Grill in Castleton. That was an absolutely fantastic time. And we'll put the capper on the work week on this Friday at Coach's Tavern downtown. This is a tremendous spot to come and join. Our friends from Zinc and Bud Light are here, and they obviously have the ice-cold Bud Light for you as what we have going on right now if you're watching inside the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Just awesome with Bud Light, Tommy S., Coach's Tavern, and we've got local flavor, don't we? The 4-seed Purdue, the 1-seed Houston. That game gets underway, game 2 of a couple at Lucas Oil Stadium later on tonight at 10:09. You can watch it on TBS and True TV. But obviously, if you're going, go. I just met Dave and Kathy. Big time. Dave's a big-time graduate of Houston back during the Phi Slamma Jamma era, which I speak so highly of. It's kind of funny. I was talking to them a little bit earlier, and obviously this Houston team is not like Phi Slamma Jamma. This Houston team is incredibly talented on both ends, suffocating defensively, really good offensively. Calvin Sampson is really as good as you'll find as a head coach in really any level of basketball, certainly college basketball. But the Phi Slamma Jamma era is such a legend. And we were just kind of going over that. He was reminding me of times when he played pickup games with Reed Geddes and, talking about stories with Benny Anders, Larry Mishaw, known back then as Mr. Mean. I brought all these guys up before. That was Clyde Drexler. That was Akeem Olajuwon, Michael Young, Alvin Franklin. It was a who's who of awesomeness. It was. And what was so interesting about that is you had to work your ass off to watch it. It's like baseball. Like yesterday, you had all the games on, and, the Reds were right there in front of us doing what the Reds normally do. Doesn't matter who your manager is. Doesn't matter who the pitchers are. Doesn't matter. You got new outfilders, and you got a bat, and you got new dudes. The Reds are just put on this earth to torture us as their fan base. Hey, we're going to torture you. But you can watch it. It's easy to watch. Like back then, you had to work and watch some teams. Hell, I never saw the then California Angels. Never saw the Seattle Mariners. Never saw the then Oakland A's. And the reason why you saw the Giants or the Padres or the Dodgers or the Astros is because then that was the old National League West. You had to work to watch it. And you go back to the 80s and what was an incredible signature heyday for this Houston basketball program. You had to work to watch them. Yet they were so nationally prominent, it was incredible. And you talk about talent from top to bottom and dudes that stayed in school and stayed with their team and not this incredible rapid movement that we have going on now because of NIL and the transfer portal. I mean, hell, now you just get used to it. Think about this, and I love him to death, and you know it. Think about if your Xavier probably feels a little bit like Indiana State did a year ago. Now all of a sudden their players, Sean Miller leaves. They have a season where you win in the first 4, you lose to Illinois in the first round of the actual tournament itself, and your coach goes to Austin, Texas, and now everybody else is leaving. And Ryan Conwell, the former Marion County Player of the Year, is, I'm assuming, going to be a hot commodity and probably somebody that IU fans would like to see down in Bloomington. But now he is in the transfer portal, as we knew that he would be. So he started at South Florida. Mind you, after being told here locally that he was no better than a Division II player. I don't know who the hell did that evaluating, but they don't know basketball from jack squat. So told that, he goes to South Florida. Then he transfers to Indiana State. They have a great year last year. Coach goes to St. Louis. They lose to the championship of the NIT. Incredible at Hinkle Fieldhouse. And then they have 9 players immediately drop into the transfer portal. And as I mentioned last year, I kind of make a joke out of this. I didn't know they had 9 stinking players on the team. Had no idea. I thought, wait a minute, 9 players? I only saw 6. They have 9? But that's the era in which we live. Everything is so easily accessible. We know absolutely everything about everybody. Back then, with that Houston team, that Houston era, the Guy Lewis led Houston Cougars, for basically 3 consecutive years, you didn't know much, and you had to work to watch them. You might get the occasional game on NBC, and that was about it. You had to work to watch it, but what an incredible era. And really, we can talk a little bit about that era. We will, about the matchup coming up later on tonight. It's funny because you look at the Boilermakers the past 2 years. They go all the way to the national championship game last year. The year prior to that, we know the disappointing results. However, this still seems like a year to where Boilermaker fans, and you should, there's a high standard of basketball that has been set. And you want to walk that line, and you want to live by that. That's how you want to be as a fan. That's how you want your team to be. Really, when you think about it right now, that's what IU fans are hoping this team with Darren DeVries turns into. You know, one where these standards are high once again, not just, hey, you won 3 in a row in January, yay, rah, that's great. That's what they are striving to do. And it still seems like this season with the Boilermakers, and I hate to put it this way because I think I really overuse this term. I just don't know how else to describe it. It's almost like you're playing with house money. Now, you can also counter that particular opinion by saying, well, they do have the Big Ten Player of the Year, and they probably have the second best Big Ten player on the same team and the same starting 5. So, you know, maybe you should hold them to a high standard. And obviously not with a 2-time National Player of the Year like Zach Edey in that particular era, but that's just kind of what you expect. 6 of 8 years in the Sweet 16 is now what Boilermaker fans, with Matt Painter in mind, that's what you come to expect. And that is never a bad thing. You got to embrace that because that can be easily lost. And in this era of constant changeover, guys going 19 different directions. I mean, hell, the coaches always could. Now the players can. You know how difficult it is going to be to maintain that level because you got to shuffle the deck basically every year. And if you listen to Matt Painter talk with me a couple of days ago, at the end of the conversation, it was about that very thing. I'd ask him, all right, so you have any idea what your roster is going to look like next year? And he blankly stated, no. You know, how would I? Because our season's not over yet. I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know how this is going to be. Have no idea. So every single year, you reshuffle the deck. I mean, honestly, it should just be Caleb first, and then everybody else is back, right? But we know in this era of college basketball, this era, I should say, in college athletics, no longer like that. Boilermakers back again. Boilermaker fans are very happy about that. We discussed that on a busy show over the course of the afternoon from what is a legendary establishment downtown on Pennsylvania. Of course, that is Coach's Tavern. Our friends from Bud Light are here, Kevin and the gang. I know Tommy S. is going to join me coming up here in a couple of minutes. We'll talk up exactly what you can get into when you join us at Coach's Tavern. If you're listening for the first time and you're new to town, yeah, this is a place that you stake out and you hang. You're like Dixie the Plain Dog and my man B. Calvert over there. You come here. Thank you, Dix. You come here and you hang out with Dix and B. Calvert, man. That's what you do. You stake your claim to a seat, to a table here, and we'll watch, we'll listen, and we'll have a blast. You got a lot of stuff going on. You got 2 games, 4 teams at Lucas Oil Stadium, 35,000 people. Think about this for a moment, too. The rest of the arenas are arenas. Like, if you watch the end of the most exciting game of the tournament, the only game of the tournament so far that's gone to an overtime, you watch Texas Tech and Arkansas, there probably weren't 150 people in that place in overtime. Did you guys notice that last night? And I know the camera shots, they were out of the camera shots. I think the fan bases were on the other side of the floor in San Francisco at the Chase Center. But they didn't look like that there were 100 people in that place last night. this is going to be different. Because not only do you have a home team involved just up the road in West Lafayette and Purdue, you got a 1 seed in Houston, and then you have from the SEC 2 teams that have rabid followings, and certainly one that has more of a following than anybody else. The 3 seed Kentucky, the 2 seed Tennessee, 7:39. That is the opener of the 2 games. And again, Lucas Oil Stadium, which should have anywhere in between 33 and 35,000 people. That is a hot ticket. That is an expensive ticket. And it will be a fantastic night over at Lucas Oil Stadium. Again, the only stadium that is being utilized. Everything else is an arena. And it's probably fortunate that you are utilizing the stadium here because they're going to pack it. Coming up later on tonight. Again, 7:39, Kentucky and Tennessee is game 1. And Purdue, the 4 seed, Houston, the 1 seed. Calvin Sampson, by the way, you have that angle at 10:09, probably more about 10:30 later on tonight, and you can check that out. All right, we'll hit more on college basketball, as I mentioned, too. Chris Kramer, the former Boiler guard, is going to join us a little bit later on. Rafael Davis, the former Boilermaker, is going to join us a little bit later on. Our normal spot with Don Fisher, voice of the Hoosiers, coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, too. And maybe Rob Blackman, the voice of the Boiler, stops by as well. We're going to check, see if he can make this on his way downtown before this game coming up later on tonight. I also need to get to some Pacer conversation because I pissed and moaned a little bit yesterday. I started the show, and you go, wait a minute, salty old man, what's your problem? So what? If Laker fans wanted to see LeBron and Laker fans wanted to see Luka, and it was loud in there, so what? What are you making so much out of it? It's not the first time that's occurred. Yeah, my problem wasn't so much with those 2 players and those fans. My problem was with being really loud when Hachimura knocked down 2 threes. All right, who the hell cares about that? So you kind of wondered how the Pacers would respond after that LeBron tip-in at the buzzer for the win on Wednesday night. And the Pacers responded, really, what's up, guys? Right out of the gate. 45 in the first. Now, again, I'm not going to make too much light of this because this is still an NBA team at home. But you could tell at about the 5-minute mark of the first quarter, there was not a great deal of interest in guarding anybody's ass. The Wizards said, you know what? If it takes more than, it's like me. Be like me on Sunday morning with my fellas down at CG. If it took more than 2 steps to the left or 2 steps to the right, I am probably not going to provide very much defensive resistance. And that's really how the Wizards were from basically the 5-minute mark of the first quarter on. 45 in the first for the Pacers, 38 in the second, 42 in the third. They got 37 in the fourth, and they spent the final 2 minutes wasting the clock into a shot clock violation because, simply put, they felt they had done enough. 162 on the board for the Pacers last night in a win over the Wizards. And I can just put it this way. I'm not here to minimize anything because you were really disappointed after Wednesday night. But I would say this. If they would have scored 130, if it was 130 to 109 or 130 to 115, I would have said, you know what, the Pacers went in and did what they had to do. They really went in and did what they had to do last night. I mean, you're talking about 162 being, I think, an NBA record for the Pacers as well. 3-point records and output, just so much with what transpired last night in D.C. So, yeah, they did what they had to do, and you did it to a team that was ripe for that. 162 was the franchise record in total points last night for the Pacers. And listen, it was awesome. It was. Now, if you're a Wizards fan, and I don't think there are very many out there, it probably wouldn't matter too much to you, but that was fun as hell to watch. Most points by a team in a non-overtime game since Denver beat Seattle 168-116, going all the way back. Well, one, that's when Seattle had an NBA franchise. There were the Sonics. And two, that was back in the year 2008. Actually, March of 2008. Halliburton, 29. Nembhard, McConnell. McConnell flirted, messed around, and almost got himself a triple-double last night, which was really good. And it was just scoring absolutely at will, to the point where I don't know how often I've seen this. We're always looking for new things to see, surprising things to see. So in the fourth last night, and the final three possessions, the Pacers said, you know what, 162 is going to be enough. We'll go ahead and put this thing on ice and hold the ball and get the shot clock violation. They actually got booed for that. The hometown team's crowd booed them for that. It was an incredible night. It was an incredibly bad team, an incredibly disinterested defense, but incredible night it was for the Pacers last night, to say the least. And you go from the huge disappointment on Wednesday to feeling great about yourself across the board last night. I don't know if anybody felt bad about anything last night, to really getting serious coming up on Saturday. And you're going to say, well, wait a minute, why are you getting serious into the regular season? We're not in the postseason yet. But if you want a very true and incredibly accurate gauge about where you are and who you are as a team, you're going to see that with the Pacers and the Thunder coming up at 8 o'clock. That is on Saturday night. 7:30 coverage begins for Paycom Center in Oklahoma City. That is coming up on Saturday night. OKC 61-12. That is an accurate end-of-season gauge, to say the least, right there. There's no way around it. As accurate as you're going to find right there. Because OKC, talented, arguably the best going right now. I mean, can you make the argument with Cleveland and their record or whatever you want to do? But arguably the best team going in the NBA, and certainly much less of an argument to have, I think, right there, because they are legit. That is as deep a team as you're going to find across the board of the NBA. All the way to the bench. It is a talented group in OKC coming up again on Saturday night. And this, if you're keeping track, OKC on Saturday night on the road, especially if you're keeping track of the standings in the Eastern Conference. Sacramento, a desperate team on Monday at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Charlotte, a team that's been a huge pain in the ass, Wednesday at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Utah, a team that stinks, Friday at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. And then you go to Denver. That's a week from Sunday. Obviously a tough task there. And then you get the Wizards back at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. You have more than a handful of games where you would like to see this team take full advantage of their situation. And then put themselves in an even better situation in the Eastern Conference playoff picture down the stretch here during this regular season. As it stands right now, they're in the 4-hole in the Eastern Conference at 43-30. That is 2 games clear right now of the Detroit Pistons and 2.5 games clear of the Bucks. 5-6 are the Pistons and the Bucks in the Eastern Conference. And if you're just kind of curious where they stand compared to the 3 seed of the East and the Knicks, they are, as of right now, 2.5 games clear of New York. 45-27 are the Knicks, 43-30 are the Pacers. So we'll get discussion on that coming up too. My man Tommy S. Tommy S., come over here for a second. Let's talk up the place. We're at Coach's Tavern. We're downtown. Bud Light, our friends from Zinc are here. Join us for the ice cold Bud Light. Stake your claim like my friend Matthew did. Matthew, formerly of Maine, and now of the South Side and of Academy Sports. Matthew is here. Stake your claim to a seat, to a table, and join us for what is going to be a great Friday afternoon, great Friday evening, and a weekend of basketball. And by the way, Gainbridge Fieldhouse tonight, one of the loudest bands of all time. I would guess that would be the case, right? Loud band. You got the Deftones. And the reason why I know this is my son Blake and Tony Donahue are going to see the Deftones coming up a little bit later on tonight. So, yep, go ahead, Tommy, yes. Deftones at Gamebridge Fieldhouse tonight. Packed downtown. It is. So be a part of this. Tommy Sutton is here of Coach's Tavern. This is the place to be. I'd mentioned to people, get the ice-cold Bud Light, stake your claim, because you will not want to miss this day in downtown Indy at Coach's Tavern.
What a great day. The weather just
Holy hell.
Beautiful outside.
It just said, you know what? We're going to give you the best day so far as
shine
today.
Down on you guys and get all the people out, get all the fans out. And how lucky did we get the Midwest Regional to get the teams that we got? We got our homegrown Purdue Boilermakers. We've got Tennessee, Kentucky that are within driving range.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen some Houston fans. We got a couple in here right now.
Well, that's Dave and Kathy.
Yeah.
Dave is a graduate of Houston.
Oh, nice.
And knew very well. We talked about Dave a little bit earlier. I had a long conversation with Dave and Kathy, big-time Houston fans. And he actually was a graduate of Houston back during the Phi Slamma Jamma days of the 1980s. It's pretty awesome right there. So, yeah. What do you got going on here tonight, buddy?
Well, I'm going to shout out to Zinc Distributing Anheuser-Busch for helping us put this on and being here today. And
don't you love them over there?
Oh, just great people.
Oh, they are.
You know, Grant down there is my longest running rep.
Shout out to Grant down there, longest running rep.
He's been my rep since day one of ownership.
Day one?
Place, so
Really?
The only one. So does a great job, and you know we do a lot of business with Zinc.
They are great folks.
They are.
No doubt about that. With our friend from Zinc and Bud Light. So what else we got going on, Tommy? Yes.
Dynamite packed weekend. You already mentioned, of course, the games tonight, the Deftones tonight. Tomorrow we've got the Indiana High School Basketball Championships at Gamebridge, and then Sunday is regional final.
Yeah.
So we'll see what two lucky teams make it.
So we're just going to hang for a while tonight. Like I mentioned, stake my claim. I'm staking my claim.
Oh,
my claim has been staked.
We're going to sit together and we'll watch some games. And
we will do that. Look at Kev right there. Kev is awesome.
And just so everybody knows, I'm neutral in all the games. I might cheer for Purdue. You know, I'm an IU guy, but I want to see the Big Ten do well.
Right.
So.
Well, you're not only neutral in that, but you're also neutral in your beverage right there.
Neutral seltzers.
Shout out to the neutral seltzers right there that you're having right there. Do you know how important it is when Dixie the Praying Dog and B. Calvert's in the house with you right here, too? Where's this Jeep parked on the street out there somewhere? You might be able to tell just a little bit that it's his Jeep when you see it. I'm not quite sure. I think your Jeep is like one of one, isn't it? I think. Oh, it's one street over? Yeah. Well, it is definitely packed here downtown. All right, so Tommy S., we're just getting started on this Friday, man. We ready to hang?
Let's go. Let's do this.
Let's do it. Tommy S., Coach's Tavern, asked for him, too, and just walk in the door, and you shall see me. We got our crew here. We got Kevin. We got Chris. Dev's the on-site engineer. We got this other dude right here. I don't really know who he is. And then we got everybody else who's going to join us over the course of the afternoon at Coach's Tavern. We're Bud Light. We are downtown. And Tommy S., the food of choice, if you were going to order off the menu right now, for your Friday night meal, what would it be?
French dip sliders.
French dip sliders. See, Dev over here had the hot chicken.
How was
he was digging
Buffalo
into
chicken?
that.
That's good. That's hand-breaded, so we do it right.
Mm.
Also, shout out to my staff. I got Amber and Emily working today, so they're going to take good care of you.
Amber and Emily are awesome, too. They know how much love I share for them back there, too, behind the bar.
Oh, we got a terminated employee up there, too, that's trying to get attention. No, that's our Jordan. We love Jordan.
All right, Tommy, yes, we're here. Rejoin just a little bit, okay?
We are.
That happens all the time.
Always thanks for having me.
You got it, buddy.
We love it when you're here.
Tommy S. is right there. All right, quick break. We'll come back. You know, Tommy had mentioned tomorrow morning you have beginning with Class A and 2A. By the way, that Class A, Clinton, Prairie, and Orleans is going to be something to watch at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. The boys' high school state finals going down. You've got 4 games in all to discuss. Bob Lovell going to join us coming up on the other side. Bob Lovell, always on a Friday, brought to you by Express Pro Tire and Auto. Your 13 Central Indiana locations. Lock it in to make sure you maintain spring road readiness with my friend Joe Childers. Micah in Plainfield right now, too. And Anthony in Plainfield, my man Mike's on the south side. Lock it in. Maintain spring road readiness with Express Pro Tire and Auto. And the 13 Central Indiana locations. We've got Bob Lovell coming up on the other side. Coach's Tavern. We're just getting started on what is an incredible weekend in downtown Indy. Hey, be a part of this, too, in some form or fashion. Ice cold Bud Light, great food, Coach's Tavern downtown. Don't go anywhere. The stream, the app, HD Radio, the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live, where there is a Caribbean cruise. We may want to call it, because you know I love Yacht Rock, the Caribbean Queen, coming up in October. I'm going to share the details on how we can all go together. That's coming up as well. Got tickets to give away to AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
your asses whipped by a bunch of damn nerds.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, we're live at Coach's Downtown. It's an official party when Billy walks into the place right here. Coach's off of Pennsylvania. Bud Light brings us to you. My friends from Zinc are here. Join us if you're watching inside the AAA Membership Lounge, YouTube Live. I have, with friends Matt and Matt at AAA, incredible vacation destination with all of us news coming up for October. All right, so I will tell you this. Set aside October the 13th through the 19th. Especially if you want to hang out with me, because I'm going to go shirtless for the entire – no, seriously. Set aside those dates. I shall explain coming up with our friends from AAA. Meantime, Coaches Downtown, Rafael Davis, former Boiler, Chris Kramer, former Boiler, and Don Fisher, voice of the Hoosiers, all on the way again. Sweet 16 here in Indy, the regional tonight is first underway with Tennessee and Kentucky. Nightcap, Houston and Purdue have you covered across the board on all of it. But don't forget tomorrow, 4 games at all at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, starting with Class A, which may be the best of the entire day with Orleans and Clinton Prairie, because there is so much storied history with both, and there's a lot of new and freshness with both as well. And joining us to talk about that from Indiana Sports Talk tonight, tomorrow night, Network Indiana affiliation. He's brought to you by Express Pro Tire and Auto, your 13 Central Indiana Joe Childers run locations every Friday. Bob Lovell joins us. So it all comes down to this. And listen, I'm normally a very rural, small town, small school, Class A type of dude, but this seriously has incredible storylines between Clinton Prairie and Orleans tomorrow morning, Bob.
Oh, it really does, John. I mean, these are obviously all 8 teams are really good to get to this point. I think we understand that. Orleans, John, you can appreciate one stoplight town in Orleans, Indiana, 252 students in the school. They're good. They're really good. They've beaten number 2, number 3, and number 4 to get where they are. And so they're ranked number 1. So they're legit and have been at or near the top all season long. And so they're good. They shoot it well. They are a team that does a lot of things and does a lot of things well. So they're running up against similarly, a Clinton Prairie team that has had great success themselves. They're long, they're lean, they take up space. They're both well coached. So this is going to be, without question, a tremendous basketball game.
The Clinton Prairie story of 43 years without a sectional title.
Yeah.
We can start there. So I'll start right there. But I also want you to play off of what has been a storied and very winning 26 years for Tom Bradley down in Orange County in Orleans. I mean, it has been, and really we'll start right there with Tom Bradley, Bob. Across the board, he's played many different styles, but normally the thing that remains the same is the level of winning, and he certainly had that over his 25-plus year career.
Well, the cool thing about Tom is that he's a local boy. He's an Orleans grad, and he stayed there, and as you point out, has had tremendous success. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's won 400 games over the course of his career, and as you pointed out, he's done it with different styles. He's 26 years to coach. He's won over 400 games. This time around, and for quite a while, he's been primarily a man-to-man defensive team. Excuse me, John. Man-to-man, and they play you really, really hard. And there's nothing fancy. It's all pretty straightforward with how he approaches offensively and defensively. They run man-to-man down in the elementary school. This is what they do. This is how they approach it. And they're a very, very well put together team. They guard you, and people say, well, they sit on the ball because they don't score much. They don't score much because they take good shots, and they're only going to take good ones. And you're going to have to work and work and work to try to get a good look against them. So I think that sets up a great dynamic. On the other side, Clinton Prairie is a 3-2 zone team. They zone you. They're long. They spread you out. And they make it difficult for you. But I think the other key here is that you get coaching royalty with the Peckinpah family. You got a great coach in Tom Bradley, Chad Peckinpah. His dad Rick's a legend and in our state. And so all those elements notwithstanding, now you got great teams, great players to go against too. So Orleans, John, is led by Ryan Crocker, who has hit big shot after big shot after big shot. On the Clinton Prairie side, one of the best in the state, Jake McGraw, is averaging 23 a game, a guy after your own heart. So, yeah, that's a pretty solid looking ball game to start the day.
Clinton Prairie story of 43 years without a sectional, and then getting that done, and then marching all the way here to this tomorrow morning Class A championship game. That is one of not just local legend, but state legend, I think, now moving forward. That's incredible.
Well, you take the line out of Hoosiers. This is for all those schools before us, all those guys before us who didn't have the chance to make it. And so you can turn it into that. It's a real-life Hoosier scenario that you're out there representing everybody from the past who didn't have the opportunity you have. But still, these are two really, really good basketball teams. I'll tell you what, John, I'm doing this game on the radio network tomorrow, and I'm happy that I'm given the chance to do it because this was going to be my favorite game going in.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that. I just think there's so many compelling stories. Now, Bob Lovell of Indiana Sports Talk, he's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. The two-way game at 12:45. Manchester and University. Let us in a little bit on University because there wasn't much said about them. Their season, I don't want to say nondescript. That doesn't sound good. But I guess what I'm trying to say is once they got into the postseason, once it was like one and done, this team has absolutely been thriving. So what have they unearthed with University to find this sort of groove at the right time of the year?
Well, I think the thing that they did more than anything was they played a great schedule that got them prepared for tournament play. I mean, you talk about playing really, really good teams. Played Brebeuf, played Mooresville, played Evansville North, played Cecina, played Monroeview's having a great year. Played Chittard, Lutheran. How am I doing so far? Played Westfield, played Decatur Central, Garen Catholic. That's how they've managed to survive that. And win 20 ball games. So when you got into the sectional, you played great teams. You played great teams all year long, and you've been presented with an opportunity now to learn from that. I wouldn't say the run through the tournament was easy. It clearly wasn't, but they start out and beat a good Covenant Christian team, beat Monrovia, as I mentioned, beat Ritter, Triton Central by one. Mark James's team at Triton Central, that was the one that kind of propelled them to where they are. And that's a big win. And think about this, John, you can appreciate this. They're for real because they beat Triton Central and then came back in the semi-state and beat back-to-back, beat Linton Stockton and Park Heritage. Those are two really, really good teams.
So Bob Lovell, Indiana Sports Talk. Again, you got 4 state championship games coming up tomorrow. Cambridge Fieldhouse here, 2025 season is coming to a conclusion. A little bit about, this is interesting to me, I guess, in the 3A. South Bend, St. Joe, and Attucks. Attucks has had, to me, a difficult path. There's no doubt about that. The path up north for South Bend, St. Joe, how has that been? Has it been equally as taxing as you would figure Attucks would? Because certainly some of these games have been very difficult for that 3A squad that has thrived.
Well, give them credit because South Bend St. Joe scheduled out of area some games. They played Chesterton in area, but they came down. They traveled to Zionsville and played Zionsville. Lost a 5-pointer back in December. Riley is good. Washington is good. Penn has been ranked in the polls all year long. Northwood started out as like number 1 in 3A, and they beat them. So they beat South Bend Adams, Mishawaka Marion. They beat a really good Plymouth team. The big one was beating Mishawaka. at the end of the season, and then through the tournament, beat a real good South Bend Washington team, and then beat Marion and Culver. They've beaten really, really good teams to get where they are. Semi-state championship over East Chicago Central. So I think one of the biggest things, like we said about earlier about 1A and about university, it's a situation where you play a good schedule and get you prepared. It's a perfect example of what the South Bend and St. Joe's have been able to do. And listen, they can score a lot of points. Now, talent-wise, they are really, really loaded. And they scored 115 last week in the semi-state semifinals.
To Bob Lovell of Indiana Sports Talk. Finally, tomorrow night, 8:15, 4A Fishers in Jeffersonville. And rarely has Fishers been tested at all since going back to the sectional round. And Jeffersonville with Sharon Wilkerson's squad has had a renaissance type of season. These two collide coming up tomorrow night. What are you thinking about the matchup?
A tremendous game. I mean, really. You mentioned great storylines. Obviously, Fishers hasn't lost in forever, it seems like. So, back they won the championship a year ago, haven't lost this year. They're 30-0. They're on a 40-plus game win streak. And this puts them in rarefied air, John. You're talking about some of the greatest teams to ever play. These guys are in that discussion without question. And they're taking on a Jeffersonville team. You mentioned Sharon Wilkerson. He played on the last Jeff team to win a state championship. Trey Singleton, their superstar, was out for the early part of the season. Since he's been back, no one's been able to play with him. They're really, really good. I think this is literally one of those games. You talk about starting with a great matchup in 1A. This is a tremendous finale, and wouldn't surprise me that it literally goes down to a last possession type of scenario. Both teams are that good.
To Bob Lovell, Indiana Sports Talk. Express Pro Tire and Auto, 13 Central Indiana locations to serve you. Brings Bob to you every single Friday right here. All right, we'll have a great show. You're not going to be lacking content between that and the regional Sweet 16 here later on tonight. Tomorrow night, you should be covered, buddy.
I hope so, but I know you're always there for us, so just be ready.
You got it, man. Bob, have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Bob Lovell, Indiana Sports Talk. Tonight, tomorrow night, Express Pro Tire and Auto brings Bob to you every single Friday right here. And it's going to be the swan song of the basketball season for the fellas coming up tomorrow with 4 games in all. I believe our Jeff Rickard from the morning show is doing the 4A title game on the radio with Fishers and that matchup coming up tomorrow night with Jeffersonville. So that should be fun. All right, quick break. We'll come back. Coach's Tavern, as you can hear behind me, busy. We would love to see you here. Chris Kramer, former Boilermaker guard, is going to join us. So what do the Boilers have to do on both ends? Like McNeese wanted to do a lot of what Houston does. McNeese is not nearly as talented as Houston. But what is the major key for the Boilermakers to maintain and give themselves an opportunity down the stretch coming up later on tonight? Is it Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Wren, but Fletcher Lawyer scoring the basketball at a higher clip tonight? Somebody like Heidi or Colvin off the bench, or maybe all of the above? Chris Kramer joins us after the top of the hour. We'll do that. We have tickets to give away. Steve Martin Short, the Mural Old National Center coming up in October, or maybe in August, the Black Keys at Everwise Amphitheater downtown. Thank you, Live Nation. We've got tickets to give away. Our friends from Bud Light are here. Zink and Tommy S. from Coach's Tavern downtown off of Pennsylvania. This is a must-attend event. Stake your claim to a table, to a seat. I would love to see you here, and do not go anywhere. The AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live and our October cruise that has been put together for the show. I shall explain that and more coming up. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Hang out.
Mr. Falcon.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Yeah. Hey, welcome back, Coach's Tavern. Thank you, Matthew. My man, Garen. Hey, Garen, come up here really quick, buddy. No, it's okay. You stay right there. Garen, just stand right there. Garen, I've always referenced Garen as the most knowledgeable Purdue Boilermaker fan. And Todd Myers probably somewhere getting all pissed off that I say that. Most knowledgeable Purdue Boilermaker fan on record around here. Do you wear that badge with honor?
Well, you kind of gave it to me, and I appreciate the hell out of it. But yes, absolutely, I wear it with honor.
All right, so we got Chris Kramer, Rayfeld Davis coming up on the show. Maybe Rob Blackburn if he gets downtown in time. So tell me a little bit of something about this Houston team that the Boilers have to do. I mentioned on a tease right before the break things the Boilers have to do tonight. Where do you start?
Number one, Smith has to be patient. There's defenders that are going to be suffocating. They can't have 2-3 turnovers and turn to runouts and 2 become 5 turnovers. Got to keep that in check. Number one, got to keep that in check. And if they can do that, make some threes, and I think feed TKR, they got a good shot.
No turnovers.
No turnovers. Just keep in check.
I mean, no time. I'm going to say no turnovers because you know they're going to turn it over. I'm going to say no turnovers. And if you can get all over that glass like they have so far, and again, we're talking about different animals altogether with High Point and with McNeese. I mean, that is not nearly the same as what they're going to see coming up later on tonight, but they've had ownership of that glass, and what that's provided, especially on the offensive end, is second chances in games where maybe they weren't shooting very well, but got that second chance opportunity and made it happen.
Well, what's so impressive about Houston is, I was reading it on Gold and Black, just how many fewer possessions teams have had against them. Kansas had 18 less possessions than they do on average when they played them at on the road and had that amazing comeback. And so if they can be that efficient on offense, which they are right now, I mean, they're number one in KenPom defense, number 7 on offense, and Cryer's hitting all those threes, then that's tough to beat. But the thing that's in the back of my mind is if Purdue can somehow push tempo, find a way to push tempo, find a way to get some threes in the secondary break, get Lawyer open. Lawyer doesn't shoot unless he's open. That's what they need to do because Houston has been one of the chic picks to win the whole thing right now. And when was the last time they lost? One loss since December 15th or something. So they're doing
I think it's
well.
like January or something like that. It's overtime losses too.
But think about the teams over the years that limited possessions. Virginia had that one crazy magic run, and outside of that, they got upset every other time. They didn't get out of the first round, and part of it was they would run into teams that could push tempo and out athletize them. Now, Purdue's got Colvin and Heidi. That's about it as far as pure athletes go. But I think if they can somehow get ahead of it, get the lead early, that's where I like their chances. Now, if they're down 10, 10's going to be like being down 20. Then it's going to be tough. Then they have to press it. Then Smith may take some tough shots, and that's the two scenarios.
He is known. You can't see him right now via the AAA Membership Lounge on YouTube Live, but Garen is known as the most educated Boilermaker fan out there. Where are your seats? How educated? How much you pay for them? That's the level of education I'm going to ask about right now.
So we'll call this a lack of prudent education. So I jumped in the pre-sale for the NCAA last October. So I bought these tickets sight unseen, having no idea if Purdue would be good enough this year, let alone get in the Midwest bracket. They lose 6-9. I thought I'm going to have to take a bath in these things. And then the committee somehow, some way, put them in the Midwest. Obviously, last weekend worked out pretty well. So we're here. I got eight rows from the floor behind the basket. So
good for you, buddy.
Got good ones.
You are educated. My man Garen, good to see you, brother.
JMV, thanks for throwing me on.
Have a nice cold Bud Light on me right there, my man. That is Garen. He is the most educated Boilermaker fan as a part of this. Sorry, Todd Meyer is right. Todd Meyer's really smart, too. It's like neck and neck. Todd Meyer and Garen right there, I should say. James is saying, please say that or Todd's going to come down here and strangle me because you're not here. And I know James doesn't want to be strangled on this particular Friday. Chris Kramer, the former guard, is going to join us coming up on the other side. Rayfeld Davis on the way. Don Fisher coming up. Coach's Tavern downtown. Bud Light brings us to you. We're live at Coach's Tavern with our friends from Zinc. Sweet 16 at Indy, Deftones in Indy, high school finals tomorrow at Indy. It is never ending. It's the way we love it on this Friday. You can join us here, Coaches, Pennsylvania, downtown, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
with JMV.
I am the cream, yeah. The cream of the crop. And there is no one that does it better.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Hello to everybody there. Inside Coach's Tavern, Bud Light. We're here with our friends from Zinc on what is a regional round, Indianapolis, downtown, Friday night. Thank you all for joining us. It was good to see and hear from Garen a moment ago, too. Rafael Davis coming up on the show from the Big Ten Network a little bit later on. The former Boilermaker Don Fisher, his normal Friday 5 o'clock spot, will join us coming up here a little bit later on. And Matt Painter joined the show back on Wednesday. I think once we get into the 6 o'clock hour, we'll fire away Matt once again talking about a variety of things, especially that of the Houston Cougars. It is a task. But this time of year, whatever you're going to get, it's going to be a task. Boilermakers coming up later on tonight have that. Now, 4 games in all across the board. I'd mentioned the 2 right here. 7:39, things officially get underway over at Lucas Oil Stadium. It is the 3-seed Kentucky, the 2-seed Tennessee. That follows the 7:09 start. 6-seeded Ole Miss and Chris Beard, the 2-seed Tom Izzo and Michigan State. That is in the South region down in Atlanta. So in Atlanta, you're right, you got Michigan State and you have Michigan. Dusty May from Greene County, Indiana, from Eastern Greene. The 5-seed and the 1-seed Auburn at 9:39 tonight. And then it says 10:09 is probably going to be more around 10:30 or so for the 4-seed Purdue, the 1-seed Houston tonight, Lucas Oil Stadium. The nightcap of it all coming at you from downtown Indy a little bit later on tonight. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, friend of the show, former Boilermaker guard, always adds a great deal of insight. Chris Kramer joins us now. Hello, Chris. How are you?
I'm good, man. Ready for tonight. How are you doing?
Did you get tickets to the game? Or are you solidly in the building tonight?
I did. Last minute, last night I got some tickets, so we'll be heading down here shortly.
I have been told by a couple of people, one being Chris Hatfield, and I think somebody, I'm looking here on my my social media account, X, Sean Shepard. Tell Kramer that Sean Shepard says hello. He used to swim in my pool when I was a kid. I haven't seen him in over a decade right there. So do you remember swimming in Sean Shepard's pool?
Yeah.
Do you remember Chris Shepard, too? There's a lot of Shepards on here that know you, evidently. So a lot of Shepards know Chris Kramer, and hopefully you know them right back there. All right, let's go ahead and get down to business with this matchup coming up a little bit later on tonight. I thought McNeese, stylistically speaking, wanted to play in similar fashion as what Purdue will see in Houston later on tonight. They don't have the higher level of talent that the Cougars have. Are there comparisons to be made between both styles on both ends, between that McNeese team that the Boilermakers beat around 2 and what they're going to see in the 1-seeded Houston tonight?
Yeah, I think so. I think, McNeese was, more athletic, quicker, all of those things. And that's what Houston's going to be tonight. I think Houston they're so competitive. Purdue's going to have to match that level of intensity, that level of aggressiveness, that level of relentlessness. If they want to have, a real shot at this game tonight, they have to, match up in every one of those categories, with Houston. And they have to rebound the basketball at an extremely high rate, which they've been doing very well. But this will be a real test for them tonight.
Yeah, I'd agree. I was just talking a little bit earlier. Those are the things that really pop off the page to me. And this is, common knowledge for anybody that's ever watched or played basketball. I mean, Houston wants to turn you over, and if they turn you over, you're screwed. The one thing Purdue has really done better than anything else is get on the boards, and especially the offensive glass. If you're able to stake a claim there, that's going to make you feel good. But those are really 2, board work and lack of turnovers, 2 have-tos to get an upset later on tonight from a Purdue angle.
Yeah, absolutely. They have to take care of the basketball. Those live ball turnovers will absolutely be killers. Those will lead to, LJ Cryer threes, sharp three, use on threes, or just, dunks in transition, complete momentum shifters. But if Purdue can rebound the basketball on the defensive glass especially, get on the offensive glass, they'll put themselves in a really good position. I think another key will be making LJ Cryer play defense, try to get him in foul trouble. He's a guy that's just a shot maker, just a purely wired scorer, and he can take over games. And then also, if Purdue can get Roberts in foul trouble, I think that'll be a real huge key for them in winning this basketball game.
So Chris Kramer, the former Boilermaker guard, he's kind enough to join us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Got tickets to the game. He'll be there. 10:09 is the scheduled tip, but it'll be a little bit later than that. Certainly game 2 at Lucas Oil Stadium with Houston and Purdue later on tonight. I was going to ask you, it's one thing about Cryer, because that's somebody that you have to target going in. But normally in these circumstances, Chris, you have a secondary or a supporting cast member step up big, and you alluded to both. Sharp, Roberts, which one of these two guys that averages into double figures concern you more than the others right here? Because, it's one thing with Cryer, but you can't have somebody else having a fantastic game, and certainly, they have 4 guys deep in double figures that can do just that.
Yeah, they really do. They have 4 guys that average around, 55 points a game or something like that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, LJ Cryer is going to get his shots. Purdue has to live with LJ Cryer having 17 points on 15-plus shots. You have to live with that. You have to make him take tough shots. You can't let him get those wide-open shots, get to the free throw line to really get the confidence going. You have to live with him making and taking tough shots. But I think Sharp is the biggest key. He's been there. He's hit big shots throughout this season. He's kind of like just a steady-headed player. So I think he'll be really key. Purdue's got to just obviously bring it defensively. Those 3 guys, Cryer, Sharp, and Uzin all shoot above, 42% from 3. So, they got to be, locked in, great closeouts, and try to make them put the ball on the floor. And then from there, it's a battle on the glass.
Chris Kramer, the former Boilermaker guards on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. How, if you were on the floor, same age, all that stuff, or at least in the same ballpark of age, how would you check Cryer?
I think I don't know. The game's changed so much from when I played. You can't be as physical and all of those things. I think you have to, really make the game hard on him. You have to top block him when he wants to come off screens. You got to lock and trail. You got to do all those things. You got to be really physical, push him out, and then really just make guys like that handle the basketball and just take away any space, any of their breathing room. Really try to dictate exactly what you want them to do. Make him put the ball on the floor and take tough twos. Don't let him get those threes. And just really play the percentages, and that's where the scouting report really come into. Does he like to go left more and pull up? Does he like to go right more and pull up? Can he finish with his left hand? Can he finish with his right hand? All of those little nuanced things that come into the scouting report, if Purdue can really cue into those and be disciplined in their approach defensively, it'll really help them.
Hey, Chris, when you look at this Boilermaker team, I said something a little bit earlier, and as it came out of my mouth, I don't know altogether if I completely bought what I was saying, but I had thoughts about it. Yeah, sometimes I have that. That's what happens when you're not very bright. But I was thinking about this Purdue program right now in these terms. Is this because it's not an Edey-led team like the last 2 years? Is this a situation where they're playing with house money, or is this just the now level of expectations for a program that has the Big Ten Player of the Year and arguably has the other Big Ten Player of the Year as far as their starting five. Is this just what we should recognize and know and expect from Purdue year after year? 6 of 8 in the Sweet 16, we know that. Is this more than just playing with house money?
I don't think so. I think this is, the new standard. I think, like you said, 6 out of 8 in the Sweet 16, and last year obviously making to the title game. People, especially fans, this is now their new expectation. This is now the standard, and so you either have to live to it or you're not. And going into it, Coach Painter every year, the goal is national championship, and obviously, they haven't got there, but or haven't got to the mountaintop. But last year, getting the title game, that they're one step closer to that, achieving that ultimate goal. But there's a perception and a reality to everything, I think, and that might be the standard for all these people. But it's really a year-by-year situation, right? I mean, we do have the Big Ten Player of the Year. We do probably have the second, Big Ten Player of the Year in Trey Kaufman-Renn as well. But I think it just really speaks to the guys on the team, how they've really bought into playing post-Zach Edey, and really just playing for each other and having fun doing it. Yeah, it hasn't always been sunshine and rainbows. They've had their fair share of adversity, but they've stuck together through some of those hard times. When everybody counted them out, to start the NCAA tournament, they won 2 games. They're 4 games away from, winning the national championship. So they still have work to do, but I do think this is a standard that everybody's expecting. And now, as players, you have to live up to that.
He's Chris Kramer, the former Boilermaker guard. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Both would be described, yourself and Braden Smith, as hard-nosed. What steps out to you or jumps off the page or the screen when you're watching him that just makes him such a different dude? Or as they like to say in this era, people say it all the time, and sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. In his case, it is. What makes him a dog?
Yeah, he definitely is that. I think for him, he doesn't have like a chip on his shoulder. He has a boulder on his shoulder. You know what I mean? He feels slighted. He feels overlooked. And every game he goes out there, he's playing, to put his name out there. Like, Big Ten Player of the Year, yeah, that's great. First team All-American, great. But, I want the respect, that comes from being overlooked. And so obviously what jumps off the page is his wizardry passing the basketball, the way he throws pocket passes, the way he throws bounce passes above his head, to Trey Kaufman and to rolling. Some of that wizardry passing jumps off the page. But the thing that personally that I love to see the most is when your best player is giving up their body for extra possessions and diving on the floor for those loose balls. That sets a tone and a kind of a precedent for everybody on the team that, hey, this is what we're doing. This is that play hard mentality that Gene Cady used to have. And, we're going to abide by that. We're going to dive on the floor. We're going to fight for every possession. Every 50-50 ball should be ours. That's one of the things that, that competitiveness that he has just really jumps off to me too.
It's Chris Kramer is with us. Listen, I'd happen to agree. I was talking to Matt on Wednesday, and I was asking about just how incredible their two-man game between Braden and Trey Kaufman-Renn is, because, we see the end result, and it's the make from Kaufman-Renn, and he makes it look so effortless, but you have so much going on there. I mean, you got a tight quarters, tight window, pocket pass, timing, the hands on the catch of Renn. Most of the time he is on the move in the process of making a move, and then you have to finish. I mean, really, if there is something artistic about the game of basketball, I would start with a two-man game with those two.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a beautiful thing to watch. And, It's kind of evolved over time, right? It's been different with Zach, what that looked like with Braden, and now with Trey as just a dynamic player off the short roll. He's got that, 10 to 12-foot push shot. He's got really good footwork. He's kind of herky-jerky, gets fouls. And he's just relentless. If he does miss, he's going to go get it. But it all starts with Braden, and first of all, reading the pick-and-roll coverage. What are they doing? And then delivering, the ball at the perfect time, threading the needle sometimes. That two-man game is beautiful to watch, and they execute at a very, very high level. And they run it from side pick and roll, empty corner, to, middle pick and roll, to, middle pick and roll with a Spain action, which is a back screen by usually Fletcher, with Trey Coffin rolling. They have so many actions to get them into that, pick and roll, that two-man game. And, it really is a credit to Coach Kramer and PJ for just evolving their offense to that they have and putting their team in the best position to win basketball games based on their personnel and, not being kind of a one-trick pony.
Hey, in closing with Chris Kramer, the former Boiler guard, you get Purdue-Houston later on tonight. 10:09 is the scheduled tip time. Yeah, probably closer to 10:30. We shall see. Game 2 at Lucas Oil Stadium following Tennessee and Kentucky. Later on tonight at the Sweet 16 here in downtown Indy. Heidi and Colvin, do they continue their higher level of play off the bench, which I think we both would agree is incredibly necessary?
Yeah, they have to. For this ride to keep going, they're going to have to both be big time again. That's making shots, that's rebounding the basketball, that's playing at a very intense rate, just leaving it on the floor. This is going to be a 40-minute war. And, you got to be able to take punches. You got to be able to take all of that and, be able to stand up at the end victorious. So it's going to be a slugfest. You got to be able to withstand some runs because that's what the game is. But for Purdue defensively, I think that's going to be the biggest thing is can they link consecutive kills together, which is 3 stops in a row. If they can do that consecutive times and get on some, 7-0, 8-0, 10-0 runs a couple times, hopefully things will be very beneficial and Purdue will come out victorious.
Hey, Chris, I can't thank you enough. You've been a very valuable resource to this show and to the Boilermaker fans, certainly college basketball fans out there. Thank you very much. I wish you could be here with us right now because we get you all liquored up, but that's understandable. You're going to go to the game, have a great time, and hopefully you get to turn around and do that coming up again on Sunday. But, again, thanks for absolutely everything because we thoroughly enjoy having you on the show with your breakdown.
All right, well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Stay in touch. Chris Kramer right there, the former guard of the Boilermakers on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Rafael Davis will be on this show a little bit later on. Now, you're asking, and I think it was Garen down there, the world's most educated Boilermaker fan, if Rob Blackman was going to be here. If Rob Blackman's listening right now, you have fans are awaiting your presence. Now, I don't know for sure if he's going to make it. It depends on how clogged up things look downtown right now. I can't really tell out the window how clogged up things are downtown, but this place is filling up as we speak. Hey, B. Calvert's in the house right here with Dixie the Praying Dog. How you doing?
We're doing good, man. Indianapolis.
What did you just say to Dix right there? You had a whisper. What was it? To Dix? What'd you say?
I said, hey, turn around, Dixie. She's got her headset on. I'm trying to get her.
Dixie looks outstanding right there. Dixie,
you love JMV? Tell him. Good girl. Yeah, man, we're enjoying the great weather here and the awesome. Sweet 16 festivities. Yeah. We had the Big Ten a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
Dixie was down here for that next door over here. So
it's good to see you, man. How you doing?
We're doing great, man. We had a busy fall. We did a lot of cool stuff.
I know you did.
You know, we got to hang out with our boys from Theory of a Dead Man up in Chicago.
Did you?
Dixie drove her Jeep on stage during the concert.
How
It was unbelievable. We're friends with Tyler from Theory. We met him in L.A. when we were filming a movie.
Are they
a couple
not
weeks
coming
ago.
down here relatively soon?
I've been trying to tell him. I'm like, you guys got to come to Indianapolis. And then a couple months ago, we were hanging out with Zach Wild and Zach Sabbath boys at the Marat. Dixie was leading the meet and greet and had her own little seat. And man, it's been
I've
pretty
never
fun.
seen Dixie not chilled. How's that happen?
Great dog, man. I just got lucky.
I'm telling you.
Great dog.
Is Dixie trained, or is it just?
I trained her obedience so we could do the stuff we do with sick kids and veterans and go to hospitals and that type of stuff. But man, she just naturally just has an intuition on what to do and how to help people and to be calm and just a good dog. I mean, she's still got her headset on. She's been sitting here for a couple of minutes. She's still got her headset on.
So how old's Dix?
She turned 9 last December.
Wow.
So she's getting up there, but still looking good, still in good health.
Yeah. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. We've slowed down a little bit. I've made an investment into a new tech company. So
have you really?
I kind of slowed down with her a little bit. It's called Be Connected. It's going to be the new big thing as far as what businesses use for their social media platform and their businesses. So that's taken a lot of my time. So I've slowed a lot of Dixie stuff down.
What does Dixie do when Dixie's not in the Jeep or hanging out?
Sleeps.
Really?
This dog loves to sleep.
Good.
Yesterday we went and pulled our deer cameras out of the woods and we ran into about 20 deer. And I just posted a video. If you go to her social media, she didn't know which direction to go. There's so many deer in the field. And she was running one way or running the other way. But thank God I got good recall, or she'd still be running towards.
That's awesome.
She'd be running towards Putnam County still right now.
That is great, right there. Now, where do you guys live? You live in Morgan, right?
We live in Canby.
Canby, that's what I thought. You
Right
lived
inside Hendricks County. Yeah. I could throw a rock to Morgan County.
It's kind of a weird area right there where it's like Morgan and then Hendricks and then Marion, like immediately in that particular area.
Morgan County's across the street.
Yeah.
Marion County's 2 streets behind me, and I live in Hendricks County.
See, I'm in Morgan County, but right across the road from me is Johnson County, so it's kind of the same deal.
Man, it's amazing to see how big Blake is now. He's going to this Deftones concert tonight. We were talking music over there a minute ago. I mean, this kid was this big. It was just yesterday. So
I know he was. So.
I was coaching him. I'm like, Blake, you got to go listen to Black Label Society. You got to listen to you got to go listen to Pantera.
You know he's going to see Deftones tonight with Tony Donahue.
He's going with Tony D.
Oh
my goodness! I don't know. I don't know about that one.
I'm going to have to ride herd on that a little bit tonight.
Yeah, Tony keep him out of trouble. Tony's a good kid.
He is.
He'll be all right.
They're both big-time racing fans, and they're both on the same page. So, yeah.
I told Blake, come see me race today. I'll be working security in the Snake Pit this year. That's my new little
part-time gig. He'll be there with the Roncalli guys. They all go, and I think they're going to – I've been told that I was going to spend the night in the Coke Lot, do the JMV takeover on Saturday night in the Coke Lot, from what I've been told. So – we shall see.
Hey, it's almost May, man.
Brother, you got it, buddy.
It's almost May.
Good to see you, B. Calvert, right there. And Dixie the praying
Dixie,
dog.
tell him. Say, come see us on Carb Day. Pagoda Plaza. We'll be there.
Good to see you, my brother.
You too, man. Thanks for having us. Nice to see you guys.
You got it, man. Brian's right here with us, and we're at Coach's Downtown. Bud Light brings us to you. Thank you, our friends at Zinc.
Thank you.
And Coaches and Tommy S. Downtown. Let me take a quick break. We'll come back. Rafael Davis, Don Fisher, and my conversation with Matt Painter still to come. Got 2 games, Tennessee, Kentucky, Purdue, Houston, Lucas Oil Stadium tonight. Deftones at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. High school state championship games 4-0 tomorrow. This is the place to be, downtown Coach's Tavern. Don't go anywhere. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
JMV.
Excuse me, Robo. Any special message for all the kids watching at home?
Stay out of trouble.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, welcome back. The All-American Rejects will be a part of the Carb Day Spectacular at IMS. You got to be a part of it, too. I mean, if you can imagine what it sounds like in here right now and how much is being consumed with the ice-cold Bud Light, for example, in here right now. But can you imagine? Yes. That is Carb Day. That is coming up on... you know what? I forgot what the date is now. That's terrible. Sorry about that. Bad host right there. I just completely forgot what day Carb Day is. James, you looked that up for me. Is it like the 23rd? God, come on, jackass. Way to go. The 25th, maybe?
It is the 23rd, May 23rd.
23rd. I was right the first time. See, always go with your first instinct right there. Yes, Carb Day coming at you. The spectacular, and we're going to have a great time. That's going to be out at IMS. Brett Michaels, All-American Rejects. Get your tickets today. We're all going to party together, too. I've heard that the JMV Takeover will be doing a live show from the Coke Lot and then spending the night in the Coke Lot. I don't know if that's been cleared by anybody yet, but that's at least what the word might be, right? Can you imagine that for a moment? Should be fun, though. We always have a blast. I'm telling you, between that and our cruise coming up with AAA membership in October, AAA.com, I'm the Pied Piper of a party, let me tell you that. And I've always been that. Like some guy today was kind of a jackass to me about rather having a root canal than going on to whatever. I say, hey, listen, we probably don't want any curmudgeons, any salty asses on any vacation where we're going, because sometimes I have to weed out people that aren't there for a good time. If you're there to be a jackass, you aren't with us. If you're there for the good time, because listen, time is of the essence right here. You got to take advantage and have a good time, and if the good time presents itself. We're not jacking around anymore. I'm 55. It's only good times the rest of the way. October, AAA membership. I'll let you know about that coming up, too. And then also Carb Day 2025, the All-American Rejects, Brett Michaels. Get your tickets. Be a part of our party out there as well. As always, see you, fellas. It's a blast. Matt Martin joins us from the Hall of Fame out of Newcastle.
Yes, sir.
All right, so you got a big weekend coming up here, right? You guys are a part of that, I'm assuming, as well, right? Beginning tomorrow morning?
We do, yeah. We promote anything Indiana high school basketball. We'll be at Lucas Oil here in a little bit tonight, and then Cambridge tomorrow, and hopefully Lucas Oil on Sunday when the Boilers win. But, yeah, great time to be in Indy, great time to promote Indiana basketball, and, again, what better state to do what we do?
Telling you, the perfect state to do what you do. How often do you guys add to, I want to say, I guess for lack of a better description, repertoire out at the Hall of Fame?
So we get, new items daily almost. We had our men's induction banquet last Wednesday. In walks in a pair of shoes that George McGinnis blew out in 1969 that he autographed. So about 30% of what we have is on display. So we rotated a lot. We just opened a new part of our museum in December. Another little under 7,000 square feet. So we're always trying to update. And one neat thing that we did now is we're a free museum, no admission costs, thanks to Henry Community Health.
That's
so
great.
Anybody can come in and enjoy it. And again, just showcase what makes Indiana basketball different.
Now, do you guys need, I'll have to probably fish it out, but I famously, when I was a sophomore, I passed a kidney stone in the stand-up urinal in the locker room at Eastern Green, and then scored 11 second-half points against Shakamak. Would you guys like that kidney stone?
Well, we'd take anything. Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't think anybody's ever done that before. I feel secure that among all these great things that have taken place in Indiana high school basketball, there is no way that anybody ever passed a kidney stone and scored 11 in the second half.
And I can confidently say we don't have a kidney stone in our artifacts room.
Well, it's very calcified. It's kind of like a burr. But it was, and I'm still scarred from the event, but I always look back at that fondly. And I always feel bad about Shakamak because a guy just whipped your ass that passed a kidney stone at the half here.
Yeah.
What the hell's going on in Jasonville?
You don't hear about that a whole lot.
You don't, man. What else is going on with you guys at the Hall of Fame in Newcastle, Matt?
Again, just trying to showcase all of our new artifacts, our new museum space, and again, free to the public. So come join us. We had, like I said, 7,000 square feet and giant history of Title IX women's sports exhibit that we're doing, and found, pre-World War I that there were roughly 250 high school girls basketball teams playing in Indiana. Yeah, just neat things that we uncover all the time, and game day exhibit that we're doing, and just proud to sponsor with the IHSA and promote them.
Matt Martin joins us from the high school Hall of Fame, the Indiana Hall of Fame, basketball Hall of Fame, I should say, over in Newcastle. How far back do you guys go? You mentioned pre-World War I. How far back do those things you have to show off go?
So, we show off everything from when the IHSA started in 1911. One of the things that we're trying to do, our women's banquet is April 26th, and we're actually going back even further and inducting some of the ladies that played pre-IHSA, in 1976. So, one of our ladies this year was born in 1899. So we couldn't put her name in our system because she was so old. But really anything that encompasses Indiana high school basketball, Indiana basketball, we're all about.
Wow. Now you're constantly looking for new things to put in the spotlight over there, I guess?
Absolutely.
How's that happen? Do people just think, hey, I think they would like that, and then present that to you?
100%. We don't, everything in our museum's donated. We thankfully don't pay for anything. But again, people want to give us their memorabilia, everything from, hey, my uncle played for Team X, or, he wasn't a starter, an all-star, but we take it as it's our history, no matter what it is. We want to showcase Indiana basketball and prove why it's different.
Do you have a celebration of high school gymnasiums over there?
We have some plaques and some pictures of everything from...
Which ones are you celebrating here? I mean, ones that are no longer here, but also ones that are still structurally sound.
It's interesting. When I first started about 3 years ago, we had a lady who emailed me, said that my dad built a gym. Do you want it? Of course, we're like, I don't know what that means. Can you explain?
Yeah.
He built a replica gym, an 8-foot by 4-foot replica gym from when he played. It's no longer there, and we have it housed in our museum. So everything from those small gyms to, Newcastle Fieldhouse is sitting right across the street from us, where we play our classic in December. We celebrate big, small, everything, because in our county there's the Hoosier Gym in Knightstown.
Yeah.
And we just showcase everything.
Matt's with us from the Hall of Fame. Have you guys had the teams that are participating? When do you announce the teams that are participating next year?
We just announced those last week.
I'm assuming Fishers is going to be a part of it, right?
So Fishers was in last year. And
you could probably put in for the next two if you wanted to, really. So,
the interesting part about our tournament is it's an IHSA exempt tournament, so you can only play in it once every 4 years.
Right. Okay.
And so, Fishers and Coach Weiniger, interestingly enough, I also officiate, so I had them in the sectional.
Now. Wow.
And so it was, I wasn't sure if Brian Lewis from the IHSA loved me or hated me, because he sent me to Carmel. And but again, we just love anytime we can get our name out or our vision, we're all about it.
I know an official named Lance Ringler. Do you know who that is?
Absolutely. He officiated our Classic 2 years ago or so, yeah.
Who's the better official, you or Ringler?
Oh, him by far.
No way. Edgewood's finest right there.
Absolutely.
Lance Ringler. I will say this. I was always jealous of he or Jeff Harrington or any of that group that played in Ellisville for Edgewood, because I was such a big fan of Ron Heklinski, and they all played. He's now in the Hall of Fame.
He just went in, as a matter of fact, what's today? Friday? He went in a week and a half ago.
It's funny how this works out. Like, I was kind of, I can't say it on the air right here what I was, but I look back on it and I wish I was pushed even more. And I don't think there was anybody around that pushed as hard to find the buttons than he did. And one of the reasons why I found that out is because I developed a friendship shortly thereafter, my high school years, with Mark Barnheiser.
Absolutely.
At Lafayette Jeff. And I found how he consistently pushed and pushed and pushed. And you see with Dusty May at Michigan, how much of the fabric of becoming a coach was built at the roots level with Mark Barnheiser, and I always felt, man, if there was a guy in that area, and believe me, back then there were great coaches, they were around. I mean, you had, Danny Bush was down at Bedford North Lawrence, obviously coached up Damon Bailey, but Ron had plenty of J.R. Holmes, who is still there right now. I would have loved to have played for. And not to say that my coaches were bad by any stretch, but Heklinski was a guy that knew how to push, and I always thought got the most out of his guys, and it's awesome that he was recognized in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's funny. Coach Heck was the one that went the longest on Wednesday night, and he kind of apologized to me. I said, Coach, you got stories, tell them.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I was a former high school coach, and again, like I said, I officiated, former high school administrator. But
what'd you coach?
I coached basketball. Actually, Dylan Windler, the year I was at Prairie Meridian for working with Coach Keck was the senior year.
Dean Windler's a big friend in Australia right now, I believe.
Yep,
right now,
absolutely.
Yep.
And it's just amazing what a coach does. And, it might not be the best player, but it's the relationship that you build with your team and your players and your staff. And, again, we talk about basketball. Some people see it as a game, and you know this as much as anybody. It's a mode to teach life lessons and be a part of something, and that's what we try to do at the Hall of Fame.
I wish that was all stuff that I would recognize when I was there.
Right.
I mean, why did it take me 20 years to recognize that? I know I'm not bright, but damn.
No, as a kid, again, the same way. I was the end of the bench towel waiver, and I learned a whole lot by doing that. And you're right, it's just life lessons that you learn 20 years later.
I would half-ass drills and all this stuff, and I'm looking back and going, why were you like that? And that's one of the reasons why I have so much admiration for Ron Heklinski. And also because I knew that Ringler was like one of the biggest wussies of all time, and I thought, man, if you could get this dude in shape, then you could get me in shape. So, yeah.
And it's amazing what a coach does that knows how to push the buttons, knows what to do. It can be a life changer.
No doubt. All right, you guys got a busy day coming up tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Let's get people over to Newcastle, the Hall of Fame. How can they come check you out?
Again, come to our museum in Newcastle, right across the street from, or the parking lot actually, from the world's largest and finest high school field house in the world. And free museum, there's no excuse. Come visit us.
We used to make fun of Windler constantly. Constantly. When we played pickup basketball over at the 6th grade academy, he would leave to go play golf.
Well, deservedly so. He couldn't play defense.
Hey, you don't need to get better. All right, Windler. I mean, Greg Norman, go ahead. You don't need to get any better. We used to make fun of him, and of course, he had the last laugh.
We had to hide him in our zone because he couldn't play defense. So.
His parents live down the road from me right now too. He's one of my he and Max Landis, who plays in Portugal right now and is finishing out his career with FC Porto over there. My all-time favorites. They really
absolutely great guys.
Thank you, B. Good to see you, man. Hey, Matt, thank you for coming by, man.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate
Matt Martin, the Hall of Fame, busy tomorrow, and then busy over in Newcastle always.
Absolutely. Come visit us.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank
Matt
you.
Martin right there from the High School Basketball Hall of Fame in the state of Indiana over in Newcastle. Thank you to Matt for joining us. Rafael Davis, Boilermaker, former Boilermaker, Big Ten Network's going to join us after 5. Don Fisher, voice of the Hoosiers as well, and Matt Painter joined me earlier this week. We'll re-rack that coming up in the 6 o'clock hour. Bud Light brings us to you where Coach is downtown. Sweet 16 in Indy, and this is the place to be off of Pennsylvania. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. We're back after this.
Brain on drugs. Any questions? 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, number 9 at 239-1070. Who's out there that would like to see the Black Keys here in Indy? Everwise Amphitheater downtown, which if you've never been there, what in the hell have you been doing? What a great venue. My man B Cash is over there calling in right now. He's trying to get the jump on all you dudes right now, I guarantee you. August 24th, that's on a Sunday night. That's going to be worth every moment of it right there. The Black Keys, Everwise Amphitheater, number 9 at 239-1070. You will go on us. Matt Martin of the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame just moments ago. We'll podcast all this up. Chris Kramer, former Boilermaker guard, also on the show. Rayfeld Davis, Don Fisher coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. In case you were unaware, Coach's Tavern's our location downtown. Bud Light and our friends from Zinc bring us to you on what is an incredible Friday. I'm telling you, who ordered the weather? Because the weather is absolutely incredible. And this is what we're all about. Now, 2 games later on tonight over at Lucas Oil Stadium, Tennessee and Kentucky is underway. Actually, 4 in all in the second half of the Sweet 16. Yeah, if you missed any of what went down last night, besides the late game, I don't know how many stayed up until about 10:30 to watch that, but really, besides the late game, there was not a great deal to speak. 1-seed Florida easily sliding by the 4-seed Maryland. And, for the Terrapins, the story is more about Kevin Willard and his situation than it is anything else right now. 87-71 was the final. It was Duke. Duke actually had to hang on. Duke got out to a big lead and then had to hang on 193 over Arizona with that 7-point win for the 1-seed Duke. Alabama, if you watched the Pacers put up 162 last night, Alabama felt eerily similar. Could not miss. 3 after 3 after 3. And can you imagine for one moment being BYU, going into the Sweet 16 for the first stinking time in forever, putting up 88 points, and then taking a 20-point beating in the process? If you were to say, we're going to score 88 points, would you think maybe you have the opportunity to win? 113-88 is the final. Alabama over BYU. I'm ready to rock again, Kev. Thank you, my brother. Y'all, I'm ready to go again if you want to do it. Yep, I'm ready. Let's do it. Kevin from Zinc is here with Bud Light. The ice-cold Bud Light is with us at Coach's Downtown. Oh, yeah, the final game I should mention, the one that went into overtime, the fun one, the only overtime game so far. Texas Tech 85-83 in overtime over John Calipari in Arkansas. And when you have the chance to foul and you're up 3, maybe go ahead and foul when you're up 3. It's over and over again. Listen, I like the last-second shot. Now, I know that takes away from it, but in terms of winning the game, that's probably what you're looking for right now. A lot of things down the stretch with a 13-point lead with 4 minutes or so to go in that second half for Arkansas that they lost, and then in overtime ultimately lost to Texas Tech, the 3 seed. 85-83 is the final in that game last night in San Francisco. What's interesting, you're going to see much different in terms of venue tonight. So Lucas Oil Stadium for these 2 games tonight, it is the only stadium. Everything else is an arena. So you're going to have 30,000 plus stuffed into Lucas Oil Stadium, whether it's Kentucky or Tennessee or Purdue or Houston fans. Whereas everything else, like last night in San Francisco, was weird. You look at the camera shot on the other side of the arena, there was like 5 people sitting there for that overtime game with Texas Tech and Arkansas. Tonight, that's not going to be the case. Locked and loaded and packed for real downtown. All right, quick break. We'll come back. Voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fisher, the first week in charge for Darren DeVries down in Bloomington. We'll go to that. Because there are so many people inside the transfer portal right now, there are some players, certainly, thank you very much, of choice Certainly one would be former Marion County Player of the Year back in 2022. South Florida, Indiana State, Xavier, Ryan Conwell entered the transfer portal. And I know a lot of Hoosier fans maybe have hard targeted him. I thought actually, true story, I thought he would end up in Bloomington a year ago. Ended up at Xavier, but I thought he would end up in Bloomington a year ago. Is there more of an opportunity for him to be a Hoosier from the transfer portal with NIL and all coming up this year? Don Fisher, voice of the Hoosiers. We'll talk about that, their new head coach, and a lot more. And Rafael Davis of the Big Ten Network, the former Boilermaker, will chat with the Boilermakers matchup against Houston. And Matt Painter, our conversation earlier this week, coming up after 6 o'clock. Coach's Tavern, downtown. Bud Light brings us to you on what is a glorious Hoops Friday in Central Indiana. Thank you all for joining us. The AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live, where we have a cruise setting sail in October. I shall explain, and you can be a part of it as well, to the Caribbean in October with AAA membership. I'll get you the details when they come in. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the 5 o'clock hour. Sit tight. Don't go anywhere. Show continues coming up after this. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Yeah, and the beat goes on.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
I can't thank you enough. By the way, we've got so much 80s coming up tomorrow night. JMV Takeover. B105.7 All Requests Saturday night. We do what nobody else does anywhere. Yeah, we play the music you want to hear. You call it, you request it, you play the DJ on the air. It is that simple. Tomorrow night, JMV Takeover. B105.7. I promise you we're going to have an absolute blast. Coach's Tavern, like we're doing right now, Bud Light brings us to you. Thank you to my friends Kevin and the gang and Grant's over there from Zinc. Having an outstanding time at Coach's Tavern downtown. Sweet 16, Kentucky, Tennessee. 3-2 matchup, 7:39 TBS and True TV at Lucas Oil Stadium. And then you get the Boilermakers, the 4 seed, the 1 seed, Kelvin Sampson, and the Houston Cougars coming up at 10:09. Probably more about 10:30 or so with the way the schedule lags later on tonight. Nightcap of the 4 games. Dusty May, 5 seed Michigan, 1 seed Auburn, 9:39 CBS. A matchup SEC and Big Ten. Down in Atlanta. Things get underway in Atlanta at the State Farm Arena with the 6 seed Ole Miss and the 2 seed Michigan State. Another SEC Big Ten matchup. Tom Izzo, Chris Beard, 7:09. 4 games coming up later on tonight. Matt Painter from our conversation a little bit earlier this week, coming up after 6. Rafael Davis of the Big Ten Network, the former Boilermaker, also joins us bottom of the hour. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fisher, joins us. Hello, Don. How are you?
I'm good, John. How about yourself?
Are we going to our table tonight?
We are not, because our table is closed.
Oh, yeah, I forgot they're on spring break. Exactly.
Yes, they are.
Well, that's, I hate to feel this way, but I'm glad because I'm not going to be down there tonight. You know, I was down there without you last Friday.
I know you were. I heard.
I tried to weasel myself to a Mexican trip with Georgia. I said, hey, can you throw me in like a stowaway bag or something? I'll go too. But I didn't.
Well, you know what? It's closed for spring break, and they always do that for their employees, just like everybody has that kind of scenario if they've got kids and those kinds of things. So that's what Ginger and Joe do, and they just do a phenomenal job there. And so we don't discount the fact that they have some spring break time coming to them because they work hard. Yeah. Well, when they reopen again. When they're open again on Friday night, you and I will be we'll be back and we'll celebrate the spring together at our table. Certainly, it's funny. I talked to Chris Kramer. I asked him this a little bit earlier, and I don't know if I'm going to do that with Rafael Davis, but I'm kind of curious from your angle and being the longtime voice of IU basketball, is what you see in Purdue and this winning clip and 6 of 8 in the Sweet 16 and what Matt Painter, and we all know how you feel about Matt because you feel the same way as I do about Matt. Is this now become the norm or expectation with this Boilermaker program? Because I kind of thought, is this, playing with house money because it's not a Zach Edey-led team, but you still have the player of the year in the Big Ten and likely, the second best player interchangeable with Trey Kaufman-Wren of the Big Ten this season. Is this still playing with house money, or is this just the expectation of this basketball program? Well, I think it's pretty much become the expectation for Purdue. And the Boilermakers under Matt Painter have had significant success through all the years Matt's been there. And he's had some really good basketball teams through the years, no question about that. Competing for a Big Ten championship year in and year out has been their norm. And getting into the NCAA tournament, although they've had a couple of blips there on the schedule over the last several years. But last year they made it to the Final Four, of course, and without question deserved to. This year they've made it to the Sweet 16, and now they're a chance to make it to the Elite Eight if they can knock off Houston tonight. So that's going to be a very tall order, to say the least. But I think it's the norm now for Purdue basketball. Their culture is built. Matt's done a phenomenal job with that. They find the kind of players that fit their system. And why shouldn't it be year in and year out that they're where they are right now? And he did not utilize the transfer portal this past year.
But I talked to him back on Wednesday, and I'm going to re-rack that coming up after 6. He mentioned that he's going to have to go deeper into it, and, that's just a rite of passage. It's funny, you can, rest on your beliefs and your process, and that's understandable. But, man, Don, you and I both know this is such an ever-changing, ever-evolving world of college athletics right now. You're just going to have to either be able to adjust on the fly or probably be left behind.
That's exactly right. Curt Cignetti said that last year when he was introduced to Indiana football. He talked about the transfer portal, and, he said, look, there may be people that don't like it, and he said, I'm not especially fond of it, but he said, I know this. If I don't change with what's going on, then I'm going to die. I'm not going to make it. And I obviously he didn't say die, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah. He literally said, you've got to change with the times, no matter what they are, if you want to stay in this business. And I think Matt's in that situation right now, too. He can see the handwriting on the wall. And they haven't had to go to the portal a lot so far. I think they had one player last year, nobody this year out of the portal. So you're looking at a program that's been built, and they just need to supply maybe 1 or 2 faces out there on a year-in, year-out basis, or maybe add even 3. But I would doubt that he would go beyond that point unless he can find exactly the right fit of player he's looking for. And in that perspective, you have to say, go ahead and do it, because he's not spending a ton of money on getting players to come to Purdue. He's done a great recruiting job there. Everybody realizes that Purdue has outdid Indiana in that regard over the last many years now. That's got to change for Indiana, of course, with the coach and with his system and what he intends or how he intends to build it. And I think he does exactly the same thing that Matt has done. He's going to develop a culture and the kind of player that he wants to fit Indiana University, and I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, and Don, you and I talked about this last week when he had before. This is such a puzzle that you have to put together now more than ever. And it's funny, I asked Matt on Wednesday, I said, do you know what your roster is going to look like next year? And it's, team going into the Sweet 16, and realistically, on paper, you only lose Caleb First. And his response was just kind of a short no. And then he elaborated with, I have no idea what it's going to look like next year. And I'm thinking that's the harsh reality of where we are.
Exactly right. And I've heard some really crazy rumors out there about offers being made to Braden Smith, and they're just unreal. And if those are true, I don't know how well, I don't want to go there. I'm not going to say what I think, but I would say it's going to be really, really difficult to hang on to that kid if the offers I've heard are realistic. I don't know if they are or not, but if they are, I don't know how you stay home. I don't know how you stay at home. I just don't.
Well, listen, he's the Big Ten Player of the Year. Who's not going to throw whatever they can, whatever resources they have at somebody like that? And Don, I'll bring up somebody different that's out of the realm so we both don't get, pissy by people out there right now talking about it. But, Ryan Conwell. Ryan Conwell out of Pike High School was viewed by some around here, which I have no idea when somebody viewed him and said, well, I don't know if he's going to be able to play beyond the D2 level. I don't know who was doing the evaluating, but stop right away. He goes to South Florida, Indiana State, Xavier, and he's probably right now the most coveted of the players within the transfer portal, at least as we speak. I mean, it's an ever-evolving thing, and it's just obvious that if you're that productive type of player, and, when you think maybe this might be the only opportunity for me to make this level of money, I mean, all you really have to do is follow the cash sometimes.
There's no doubt, and that's the sad part of college athletics these days is we've all lamented, any of us that are beyond the age of 50 years old have all lamented the fact that college athletics is no longer what it once was. And today it's all about the money and about what you can do for me if you're a player. And I don't like it, but that's just the way it is at this point. And like I said, you've got to adapt if you're a coach. And I don't doubt that Matt will have to do some of that. And I know that Coach DeVries is going to do that at Indiana. He has no choice. He's got to do that. And now I don't know if you've seen that news, obviously, but Indiana basically has nobody scholarship-wise right now at Indiana coming in except for Trent Sisley, who is announced for IU, and he's a freshman coming out of Montverde Academy down in the Florida area after I think he was from Heritage Hills prior to that, but this is the only year he spent down there. But Trent is coming to Indiana. He's apparently told Coach DeVries that he will be there for this fall. And then after that, there's nobody left. Luke Goody's trying to get a medical red shirt and wants to stay if he can. But I don't know where that situation is located at this point. And other than that, there is not a single scholarship player on the Indiana roster right now.
Hey, Don, have you – I know you've talked to Darren DeVries already. Have you informed him of your good friend me that even at 55 has a little bit of eligibility left right here? I can help.
Well, here's what I do know. With you and Jim Schwark, who's a friend of mine from my church, and he continues to say that I have eligibility remaining. Between the two of you, you may be on the roster next year. We'll see.
Hey, listen, I can do it. I mean, I can do it. I think we would have a little two-man game between me and Sicily. I mean, the age gap notwithstanding, we can develop that a little bit. You know, they go down inside, double team on him, leave me wide open, I'll knock it down. So, yeah, I think that works.
Basically, you're telling me that if nobody guards you, you're in Fat City.
Exactly. Well, and yes, exactly. And then if we go on the other end and I have to guard somebody, I may end up puking on defense. That'll suck. But, yeah, you know, it's not like it'll be the first time somebody hadn't puked on defense, right?
Well, and here's the thing about that. You know, the guy that's guarding you may not like that at all. And he may just quit.
No. Well, I think I got two things going for me. I've got my look, which you automatically go, well, there's no way this guy can play a lick. And then if I puke on you, you go, I don't want to get close to him because he may puke on me. So two things going for me already.
Well, based on our conversation here, I don't think we're going to get very far.
No, we're probably not. That's the best pitch that I have right there. But, no, I think you make a great example of just where we are right now. Like, it's reminiscent of Indiana State a year ago, Don. I kind of made light of this last year when they lost to Seton Hall, gagged away the NIT title against Seton Hall last year at Hinkle Fieldhouse. I knew at that moment that everybody was gone. They had 9 guys in the transfer portal in 24 hours. And, Don, I didn't know they had 9 guys on the team. I thought they only had like 6. And they had 9 guys in the transfer portal after that. That's just the way that it is now. We got to live with it.
Yep, and Bryson Tucker, of course, was a freshman. Would be a sophomore now, wherever he goes, the next place that he goes to. But he's in the portal now. Of course, it's also been announced that Miles Rice has gone into the portal today. So there's nobody left. There literally is nobody left, and that includes Dallas James, who I think ran out of opportunities, even though he was a scholarship player this year. I don't think he was intending to come back because he was a senior plus. I think that means that you've been at least there 5 or 6 years in college basketball. So, and he didn't play a lick this year. So there's just nobody left in this roster. And Darian DeVries has got a lot of work to do, no question.
What do you think about the new IU coach? Because I know that you talked to him already. What has he impressed upon you, at least in that initial discussion?
Well, there's no question. The things he talked about, and I think I may have said this to you last week, but the things he talked about in his press conference thrilled me to death. I had a smile on my face the moment I started hearing him talk about how he was going to run practices, the kind of kids that he's trying to recruit, the character of those men being critical, because that's the way you get guys to buy into your system and those kinds of things, guys that are willing to be coached and they understand what their role is going to be. And all the things that he talked about in his press conference, literally, I thought were exactly the kinds of things that I heard Kurt Cignetti say when he came to Indiana as the football coach last year. So from my perspective, we've got a winner. There's no doubt about that in my mind. What he did last year at West Virginia was almost identical to what he's going to have to do here at Indiana. He had to hit a whole new roster last year at West Virginia and ended up taking a program that I think had 8 or 9 wins the year before and got 10 more wins out of that ball club last season with a couple of injured players, including his son, who was out most of the season and now has a medical red shirt. And he's in the transfer portal, and I would bet money that he'll be coming to Indiana. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, he's a good player, too. I mean, back in his days at Drake, he consistently tore a new one for the Sycamores. There's no doubt about that. Voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fisher, with us. Hey, so we watched our first overtime game last night while basically a lot of the world was in bed with Texas Tech and Arkansas. And we have seen mostly chalk through this tournament so far. Is that just the way the teams are, or is that, the reason behind NIL and the transfer portal? Has that robbed the mid-majors and the smaller teams from the upsets and the opportunities that we see, the David versus Goliath matchups at this point of the season in the NCAA tournament? Has that been a detriment, and is that the reason why we have seen basically everything be chalked to this point?
I think there's a lot to that, John. There's no question in my mind. The mid-majors and those teams that were the dark horses or the Cinderellas in the years past, I think that is long gone for a lot of these teams now. I don't think there's any question, because those teams now are furnishing the big boys or the teams that have the really good rosters already and then just need to add 2 or 3 nice pieces. A lot of those mid-major players are now coming to these big boy teams, and because they are that good, they just happen to be in a place where they weren't recruited as hard or were guys that were overlooked a little bit, that kind of thing, and they've had something to prove, and they've done so in the mid-major programs, and now they're being picked by the Big Ten or all the Pac-4 conferences now, or the P4 conferences at this point, the power conferences. That's what they're all going for at this juncture, and that's how a lot of the mid-majors are going to survive, too, by recruiting guys that are overlooked or didn't get as much press, so to speak, while they were high school players. And a lot of coaches are going to these kids now from a mid-major programs and saying, look, you play with us for a couple of years, and we're definitely going to be able to get you to a bigger school at some point in time. And that's how they're recruiting, because that's the only way they can in these days. And there's no doubt there are a lot of kids taking advantage of that scenario.
Man, I'm kind of caught in the crossfire a little bit, Don, because I love the game of basketball so much. But when I watch, I go, wow, this is not the product or the reason, I guess, why I love it. So, I mean, I still watch it, right? And I'm not going to stop watching it. I'll tell everybody out there that, because I love basketball. But we all just kind of wish it wasn't in the situation. I would have to think, certainly all of us that are a little bit older and have seen the greatness of the past, it's just not the same. And you have to be a lover of basketball, I think, if you're really, long in the tooth and being a basketball fan, to truly enjoy what you see right now. It makes it difficult. It does.
I don't argue a bit with that, John. I just think that the game has changed, and it's unfortunate from the amateur standpoint, because obviously that's what everybody kind of talked about in the past. The student-athlete aspect of it, I wish the NCAA would stop using that term, because I no longer think that's what's key in this situation. I know that there are a lot of players that still very much care about their academics and that kind of thing, but it seems to me that more and more of these guys now they're willing to take whatever money they can get to go someplace else, whether it's whether they love the school that they were at or not. The money's going to dictate whether or not they're going to stay there, and we'll just have to kind of wait and see how it all plays out. But I don't like it any more than you do, John. And I've said that since the transfer portal came into being and the NIL came into being. I don't like it at all. But I'm on the long side of things at this point, and there's not much any of us can do about it, so I just have to live with it as long as I'm going to continue to be involved.
Well, yeah, that's my problem, too, because I love basketball, and I'm always going to watch basketball. Thus, I'm going to buy into it right here. But it's It's hard. I mean, it really is. The ever-changing world. And to think that you wouldn't know, name, image, likeness, you wouldn't know that immediately it would transfer into what it really is right now, free agency. I mean, come on. Everybody knew that was going to take place. That's exactly how it's transpired.
That's right. There's no doubt. I mean, that's the first thing. The first time I saw that NIL was going to come into existence, I said, this is totally going to change athletics at the college level, and there's no question about it. It's going to be free agency for players, and with the open transfer portal that you can transfer anytime you want to, or every year you can transfer to a different school if that's what you want to do, and they'll pay you to do it. So it's just a free agency scenario at the college level, just like it is in the pros.
Hey, Don, I know you and Susie go to a lot of Pacer games. You and Susie could scored last night in Washington. You know that, don't you? You see 162 on the board?
I did. I couldn't believe it. I flipped back and forth because I was watching a lot of the college games last night. Every time I flipped back to the Pacer game just to see what the score was, it was like another 10 points higher. It was just unbelievable.
I have not seen a team more disinterested in playing defense since I went to high school and I saw my teammates. Seriously. Washington thought about the 5-minute mark of the first quarter, they said, you know what? We're not worried about this defensive thing. You guys just do whatever the hell you want. It was pretty amazing.
I'm sure the Pacers didn't mind.
Well, they needed that after Wednesday night against the Lakers at home. There's no doubt about that. All right, hey,
oh my goodness,
when everybody gets back, Joe and Ginger gets back and we reopen our table, me and you there for cocktailage, okay?
All right, sounds good, man.
Have a great weekend, Don. Thank you.
You too, John. See ya.
Don Fisher, voice of the Hoosiers. Andy Moore, Automotive Group Hotline. The background sound is good. Why? Because this place is packed. Coach's Tavern, downtown Pennsylvania. Bud Light brings us to you. Rafael Davis, former Boilermaker analyst for the Big Ten Network, is going to join us coming up next. I'll re-rack Matt Painter from our conversation earlier this week back on Wednesday, also coming up in the 6 o'clock hour. Don't go anywhere. Steve Martin Short tickets, the Mural Old National Center. That show's coming up in October as well. Give those away. Again, sit tight. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
JMV.
Jim Perry, now talk to him, damn it.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Oh, I got to thank you for joining us at Coach's Tavern. We are downtown, everybody, with Bud Light. Yeah, a lot of 80s tomorrow night. JMV Takeover, B105.7. All requests Saturday night, 6 until midnight. Hopefully you're going to be there with me like you are with me right now at Coach's off of Pennsylvania downtown. First of two Lucas Oil Stadium games in the Sweet 16 tonight. Kentucky, Tennessee. And then you have the Boilers, the 4 seed, the 1 seed. Houston and Kelvin Sampson as the nightcap. Meantime, Andy Moore, Automotive Group Hotline, the former Boilermaker. Big Ten network analyst Rafael Davis joins us. Hey, Rafael, are you in town for the game?
No, I'm not in town. I'm in Chicago. I got to work in studio time at the Big Ten Network this weekend.
Well, they need the info there, the education there. There's no doubt about that. All right, curious. I want to start off with this matchup. Give me one thing the Boilers absolutely, positively have to do to keep contact and challenge here down the stretch to win this game tonight. What is it?
Braden Smith has got to be really, really good. He's got to be the player of the year. He's got to be first-team All-American. He's got to have one of those games where you look up and he's near a triple-double. He has a high double-double. He's scoring. He's getting everybody involved, but I think this is a game where your stars got to be stars. And Trakoff and Renner's got to play well, but I think Braden Smith has got to be the guy that we all think he is.
So Rafael Davis of the Big Ten Network's got your studio analyst work coming at you. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. How impressed have you been, even through the first 2 games of this tournament? First round, second round, that's McNeese and High Point successively here. With the rebounding, and not just the rebounding overall, but the offensive glasswork that Purdue has done. That's something that I point to that I hope maintains later on tonight in Houston. How impressed have you been?
That's a good question. I guess I wouldn't say I've been impressed, but I guess I expect it. I guess you're trying to look at Purdue and you look at who they have in the front court, and you expect them to out-rebound McNeese. You expect them to beat up High Point on the glass. So I think tonight is a game where you kind of get a test where you kind of see where you are. So I think tonight we're kind of against Houston. If you dominate the offensive glass there, then I'll be impressed with it. You know what I mean? So sometimes I don't put too much into certain games when it comes to certain aspects. When I look at the first 2 games, I've been more impressed with their ball containment on the perimeter. I've been more impressed with their perimeter defense, keeping the ball out of the lane, more impressed with kind of their rim protection in that kind of way.
I just thought, to me, because it's not like they just, I thought, swamped either team offensively, but I thought they really got down to it because they gave themselves on the offensive glass extra opportunities. And, oftentimes, I'll give you a great example, Rafael. Oftentimes you saw that coming off the bench, and Cam Heide was providing in that particular role, which I think maintains as a level of importance tonight.
Oh, no, I'm with you. They did a great job on it, but I just think where you look at High Point, they play small ball. You look at McNeese, they play small ball. So you look at Purdue, they play big boy ball. Like Cam Heide, although he may be a wing, he's 6'8". He matches up well with those teams. You look at Trakoff and Rand and Caleb Hurst, that's 2 old-school big men inside. So they should win those matchups when it comes to the glass. So, to me, I'm one of those guys where you don't get rewarded for doing something you're supposed to do. And that's something they should have done in that game. And it did get them the win. But when it comes to Houston's a different animal. And I think tonight, if they're able to do it again, then I guess I'll walk away impressed with the rebound. But like Coach Painter writes on the board every single game, rebound the opponent. So I guess I'm just not impressed with guys go to like Trey Kaufman-Renn should go get double-figure rebounds every single game. Like Trey Kaufman-Renn should be at that point where he's getting 10, 12 rebounds every night. Like we shouldn't be that impressed with kind of certain nights where they're doing well.
Hey, give me a thought on Houston's offense later on tonight, Rafael, in that second game of the Sweet 16 here in Indy. I mean, it's one thing to hard target L.J. Cryer. He's really good, nearly 16 points a game. But they have 4 guys in double figures. You more worried about Cryer getting his or more than his, or what that supporting cast can do for Kelvin Sampson offensively tonight?
I just look at Purdue this season. When Purdue has struggled, it's been against teams that have 3 guards on the perimeter that can go get baskets. And when you look at Houston, you look at Cryer, you look at Sharp, you look at Uzan, all 3 guys can break you down. And it's similar to Ohio State at Mackey Arena, where you had Michael Parrish, Bruce Thornton, and you had John Mobley Jr. Or you look at games where it was Michigan State with 3 guards. Or it's just been certain games this season where they've had trouble containing the bounce. But like I said earlier about Brandon Smith, if I'm in LJ Cryer's shoes, if I'm LJ Cryer, and if I think he thinks the way I feel, this is a game where he comes out and he tries to get his. Because all season long, he's heard Brandon Smith is the best point guard in the country. He's the best guard in the country. So LJ Cryer kind of has some added motivation in that. You know what I mean? So I kind of expect that to be a really, really, really important matchup throughout the game, kind of the game within the game between the 2 star guards.
Here's Raphael Davis of the Big Ten Network's got you covered with the content coming up later on this evening. I'm assuming all weekend long as well. You can check him out on the Big Ten Network. I did want to ask you this. Fletcher Lawyer is a guy that when normally he gets his or more, you're feeling really good about what the Boilermakers are doing. At what level, at what clip does he have to play tonight, do you think, for the Boilermakers to have that opportunity down the stretch here? What are you looking for from him?
No difference from Brandon Smith. Like I said, tonight is a game where you're playing one of the best teams in the country. You need those 3 guys to be at their best. You need Trey Kaufman-Renn, you need Brandon Smith, and you need Fletcher Lawyer to be at their best, at their peak. If Purdue wants to have a chance to win the game, it reminds me of the baby Boilers when you had games when it was Etwan and it was Robbie and it was Juwan. All 3 of those guys needed to play well at the same time to win big games. And that's kind of the point where Purdue is. You need Kim Heide, you need Miles Colvin, you need those guys to be good complementary pieces, but the stars got to be stars in games like this. And playing through injury or not, you're out there, you're out there. And Fletcher Lawyer a little banged up, but that's no excuse. He's got to be a guy that can make shots, that can loosen up the defense, because the best way to alleviate pressure is throwing the ball inside, Trey Kaufman-Renn having success, and then Houston starts to send that double team, and they let you know it's kick out, swing, and Fletcher Lawyer is having a field day. So he's got to be able to make shots if Purdue's going to have a chance.
This may sound silly, but I'm just kind of curious from your experience. Does location in your home state, does timing of the game in situations like this, Raphael, do any of those 2 things matter whatsoever in your opinion?
I mean, the fans will be there for Purdue. It'll feel like a home game. I mean, it'll get loud when they make plays. I mean, it'll get quiet when things are kind of stale. But at the end of the day, it's just basketball. At the end of the day, you got a round ball, you got 2 hoops, you got a guard, and you got a scorer. So the team that controls the glass, the team that handles the basketball, the team that can control the tempo of the game, they're going to win that battle no matter where you're playing at. You play at Indy, play in Indianapolis, or you play at the park somewhere in California. I just think that when you play at this level, and at this point, these dudes are professionals, when it kind of comes to their craft, whether they're in college or not. So I don't necessarily think it matters much outside of just kind of the fan experience.
Hey, you and I have talked about a lot of things Big Ten this season. I didn't want to close with you right here with a quick question regarding Darren DeVries. I haven't had the opportunity to talk with you about that hire in Bloomington. What do you think about what they have brought in as their next head coach of the Indiana Hoosier basketball program?
I think Coach DeVries is a really good hire. I think he gets. I think when you hear a coach talk about recruiting and how he wants to get the job done, putting together a team, not just together a talented roster, I think stuff like that matters. I think coaches that don't really care about rankings, don't really care about 5 stars, care about kind of the locker room vibe, I think that matters. I think when you have a locker room full of good dudes, sometimes that wins. I think with Indiana, sometimes, though, when you're not bringing in certain caliber recruits, when it doesn't look right, it's not sexy, sometimes you can kind of get the side eye. But I think if you give Coach DeVries time enough to bring in the guys that he wants to kind of play the style that he wants to play, and then obviously you probably maybe get his son and Tucker DeVries. He obviously will come in as one of the better players in the conference, and you start there. I mean, I'm a big fan of Trent Sicily. He's one of my favorite players coming out of the high school ranks. they're a big fan of the breed. So I just think it's always going to be about who can he retain, who can he bring in. But when you hear him talk and you hear about how he wants to get the job done, it's going to be his way or the highway. And I really enjoy coaches that way when it comes to recruiting.
Well, let me tell you this. If you were down here with us right now, you'd be having a hell of a good time and probably a lot more fun. But duty calls. Have a great time with the Big Ten Network. Break that thing down. Give us that content. And we'll catch up again soon, man. It's always a pleasure, Rafael. Thank you.
You have a good one, man.
So Rafael Davis, the former Boilermaker for the Big Ten Network on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I mentioned the great time at Coach's Tavern downtown. Bud Light brings us to you. Tommy S. is back with us right now. Tommy Sutton, how we doing?
Doing real good. I'll tell you what, this traffic's really picked up in here. You can tell that
holy crap,
the fans are really rolling in right now. Pretty
like
strong.
A mixture of fans and like Deftone people.
Yeah, we got some Deftones fans in here, and we got Boiler Nations representing.
What did the lovely lady just bring me right here? What is this?
I could not answer that question for you.
It smells like something Red Bully. Hey, who sent me this shot? Do we know? Somebody sent me a shot. I love it, though.
Somebody likes you more than I do.
Somebody likes me a great deal. Hey, food, ice cold Bud Light, Tommy S. Talk up the place tonight, because if you don't have tickets to the game, what the hell? Right here it is.
You can watch the game here. We'll have the audio up. We got 16 TVs. You can't miss a beat of the action down here. Whatever you want to see, we'll have a little MLB action on too on some side TVs. So come on down.
Why not?
Drink up, be merry, get some food.
Yes. What have you seen most of so far? Boilermaker, Kentucky?
I think it's a pretty 50-50 between Purdue and Kentucky.
I agree.
I haven't seen a lot of UT fans.
I sent this out to Purdue fans earlier this week. I said, you guys got to show out. I mean, listen, Kentucky's going to be hard. They're going to travel anywhere, anytime, any place.
Sure.
Doesn't matter. But, I mean, you don't want to end up being like third place here. You don't want Tennessee to swamp you. Or certainly don't want to be compared to Houston, right? So
I think Boiler Nation is definitely down here. You can see them all. So they're excited. I mean, this is Purdue's an interesting team.
Yeah.
Because they've got the experience in making deep runs in the postseason tournament. I mean, made the national championship last year, and these guys stuck together. So they might surprise some people. They could surprise Kelvin Sampson, those Houston Cougars tonight. So. Even though they're a big dog.
Yeah, no doubt.
8.5?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no doubt.
I think it's a little disrespectful, personally.
Take that to heart if you're the boy.
This is Purdue's backyard, so.
Yep. It is going to be something over there later on tonight. I should mention this is Tommy S. Tommy Sutton of Coach's Tavern downtown. Bud Light brings us to you on this Friday. We also have games going on here tomorrow at Cambridge Fieldhouse. You
Indiana.
got 4 Class State Championships. That will be decided too.
It's
a lot
March.
of people
It's
coming
basketball
over and
in
get
Indiana.
themselves some good food, good lunch, good dinner right here.
We love it, and we got a great weekend ahead of us. So can't wait. Come on down.
And then the weather has so cooperated; it's been ridiculous. Seriously.
It is. Can it please stay this way? Nah, I think it's going to get cold again. Or it's supposed to storm, I think, Sunday.
I think it's going to storm on Sunday, but that's going to be like one day of cold. It's like that normal late March, April thing, and then back into the
bring on
warm
spring.
again. How late we going tonight, brother?
As late as I can. Hey.
How late are you open?
3 a.m.
3 a.m. right
We'll be
here.
here till 3 a.m.
The party place to be, Coach's Tavern. Tommy S., my brother, I appreciate you more than you know.
Always love having you here. And
we'll be back here next Thursday.
Next Thursday with our buddy Brent Holverson will be here. So
Brent.
And probably that rascal Jim Romanek.
The Romy dropped off a care package.
He did. He hooked you up.
Let me tell you what. I may have to get loose. Look at this right here.
Hey, that's the good stuff. The grain to glass. That's the heaven hell grain to glass. That is some good bourbon right there.
I think if I drank all the way down to the hill here, I'd be in good shape.
You wouldn't be feeling any pain, I'll tell you that much. I think that's like 121 proof. So.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. So I'm at Broad Ripple at Connors about a month ago, and I kind of wondered why. I thought, man, is this a strong pour? Is it my weight loss? Am I a lightweight now? But yeah, the whole 126 game of
there's that, and you get the
barrel proof.
You get the John Yegi pour too if he's working.
Yeah, he was working.
The JY.
I got that pour.
Shout out to my friend JY. I've known that kid for 20-some years.
I love JY, but man, he poured me right into.
He knows how to get you feeling good. I'll tell you what.
Let me tell you. All right, getting 3 a.m. tonight, right?
3 a.m. Purdue tip-off, about 10:09, I think, or
they say 10:09. I bet it's going to be closer to 10:25 tonight.
Yeah, that's probably more than likely.
My guess. Right
so
there.
first game 7:39, Tennessee, Kentucky. Come on down, get a seat early. Come join us for the action.
Yeah, we'll also be watching the other games that are on too. Obviously, Michigan and Auburn is one we're going to be paying attention to coming up later on tonight. So you got a lot of stuff going on.
Michigan State tonight too.
Michigan State.
We got all the Big Ten teams
tonight. So yeah. Be locked and loaded. Thank you, buddy.
All right, thank you.
Tommy Sutton right there. Bud Light brings us once again to you. Coach's Tavern downtown. We're open until 3 a.m. You have no reason not to join us. Meantime, take a break. We'll come back. Somebody did send me something. I did want to bring this Pacers subject up really quick. We'll do that. Matt Painter, my conversation earlier this week. Re-rack coming up at the 6 o'clock hour. Hey, it is regional round Indy Friday, late afternoon, early evening. Join us here, Coach's Tavern downtown with Bud Light, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Back after this.
them, trade them, or just enjoy them.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, let me give you some tickets here. Steve Martin Short, October, Mira, Old National Center, great venue, and this will be a great show. I have seen it before. I promise you will love this, too. Seriously, two of the greater entertainers of not only our era, but any era. Steve Martin Short, Mira, Old National Center. Thank you for having us, man. I appreciate that. Number 9 at 239-1070. You can go on us. Coach's Tavern downtown. Bud Light on a Friday as we get set for Tennessee, Kentucky. Game 1, Lucas Oil Stadium. Game 2, Purdue and Houston. The Sweet 16 in Indy, Deftones at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. 4 games coming up tomorrow morning and evening, I should say, with the high school boys state championships going on too, and then back for the regional final coming up on Sunday at Lucas Oil Stadium. So to say that it's packed, to say that it's exciting, to say that this is exactly how you'd want weather-wise and hoops-wise your Friday here in Central Indiana, I am understating that point immensely right here. I saw this a little bit earlier from Evan Sider, and somebody actually asked me a question about this. Pacers put up 162 franchise record last night. Threes. Washington looked terrible, whatever. You get OKC coming up tomorrow night on the road. But this is more about the short-term future. Evan Sider, a friend of the show, had sent out this on X. The Pacers absolutely want to retain Miles Turner this offseason, but they have no intentions of crossing the luxury tax threshold. Now, Sider got that from Brian Windhorst of ESPN. Continued. If Indiana re-signs Turner, they will need to make a cost-saving trade with a key rotational piece. All right. So I was asked, because obviously this involves Miles and this involves the Pacers, about this. And here's what I will tell you. And I am going to simplify this as best I can. And while it's probably not completely fair to the Pacers organizationally to do, I'm going to do it. You have had loyal fans go through a lot of crap. And I know that kind of is counter to what I talked about with the Lakers in town on Wednesday. Yeah, Lakers and LeBron, Lakers and Luka can be a little bit different. But you have had fans that have been loyal. And what I will tell you about the NBA, or really any professional team, if you're smart, you're savvy enough, if you're dedicated, if you're serious about winning in the moment and winning long term, and you know you have vital pieces to fill up that puzzle to what you're looking for, you find a way. You find a way. You find a way to keep what you want. You find a way to hopefully maintain what you have. You find a way to add to the equation to make your team better. You ever notice that? Good teams find a way. Teams that are serious find a way. Teams that are invested in you, because by God you've been invested in them, they find a way. And I understand that is incredibly simplex, but it's true. Everybody finds a way. So I don't want to hear any of this jackassery about having to do this and do that to make sure you maintain the level of spending which is adequate for your organization. My ass. If you have what you like, keep what you like. Keep what works. If you need to add more, add more. End of story. I don't really want to hear anything else. And listen, it's not my money that I'm spending outwardly right here. I completely understand that. That's why this is so simplex. But I don't want to hear anything. All right, you put together the pieces on a team, and you're moving in the direction in which you want. So you want to hijack it by blanking around regarding money and where not to go and being worried about that. If you're invested in seriously winning, those teams find a way. There's Jay Prairie right here, the lovely Shannon. Shannon looks so lovely right here. Quick break, we'll come back with you. Matt Painter's going to join us coming up a little bit after 6, and we'll re-rack that from Wednesday as well. Thank you for that question, by the way. I didn't want to get that off my chest. I'm just so sick and tired of hearing about money and finances and not doing this and luxury tax that. If you're serious about winning, by God, be serious about winning. If you're not, let us all know, and I'll jackass around somewhere else. Coach's Tavern downtown. Bud Light brings us to you on a Friday. Thank you for joining us. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
JMV.
He's my best friend. He's my pal. He's my homeboy, my rotten soldier. He's my sweet cheese, my good time boy.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, let me tell you, I'm a simple kind of man here. And that includes smarts. I'm very simple. And I'll keep it simple. Serious teams find a way. Non-serious teams blank it away. Don't blank it away. You've had my attention. I like what you're doing. I've given you props. I've given you credit. I won't stop doing that. But if you blank this up, then we'll come at you because that's what we're supposed to do. That's how I feel. I know it's much more difficult. I know it's not as simple. I'm talking about the Pacers right here, by the way. This is kind of a bleed over to after 6 o'clock right here. We got about a couple of minutes here before Matt Painter. I'll re-rack that for you. But, yeah, I mean, in terms of the Pacers, I don't want to hear anything about luxury tax and spending and having to cut because of this and my ass. So I'm going to be invested for somebody that, well, we can't help. I mean, this is a vital player, but you're going to cut? No, keep. If you believe in him, keep. I mean, if you don't. I understand the basketball decision-making, but I don't want to hear a damn thing about finance. Not a damn thing about finances. Don't cry me a river on that crap. I love you right now, and you know that. And I've been very happy with the way you've built this, and I really enjoy watching these dudes play together, but I won't be crossed in all this right here. So Jake Query is here right now. Query and Company. Hey, Jake, come over here for a second. I got about 2 minutes. I got 2 minutes and I got bail. I don't think Jake understands time is of the essence right here. Sorry about that. Jake Query of Query and Company is walking up here right now. We got about 2 minutes before I have to bail. I got to go to Matt Payne. I want to bring you on.
Sorry about that.
You brought Shannon, I saw.
I did.
Well, hello.
We are down here to you know what? We're down just to kind of soak in the atmosphere. I think I am going to go to the game later, but
you may have to babysit my ass because somebody just got me a shot. I have no idea what's in it.
Well, that's fine. Shannon actually said she's like, because I'm going to the game. I'll take over here. John just did a shot that looked like it might have had a recycle. Not because you didn't like it, but because of the way that, like, it was an awkward intake by you there. Now, that's the weirdest looking shot I've ever seen, the way somebody takes a shot. You did that like it was mouthwash.
I didn't mean to. It spilled all over my face.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to just, like, you got to just go down with it, right? Like, just boom.
Well, and I don't want to be disrespectful, but that really tasted like crap. I'm sure it was really good, though. I don't know. It was alcohol.
Somebody bought you a shot, and
somebody
you took
did.
it. So you might have just been roofied, is what we're
Somebody just may have urinated in this thing.
That's right.
I have no idea. All right, thoughts about tonight, Purdue and Houston in closing.
I think Houston will guard the heck out of you, and they can shoot from anywhere. I think the thing that Purdue has to avoid here is letting the roof cave in early. If they can hang around and Braden Smith can control the tempo and try to kind of slow things down and keep it in check, I think Purdue's got a shot. Houston's really, really good, though. I think the other, Kentucky, Tennessee is going to be a great game. I do think Tennessee's going to win the region, but I would love to see Purdue pull the upset tonight, and then all bets are off once you get in at that point. But I think it's going to be – look, the atmosphere is great. I mean, there are a ton of fans out already.
Yeah.
This is what it's all about. The weather's great outside.
Incredible.
I mean, if you're not downtown, get downtown because it's pretty awesome down here.
You guys going to hang out with me for a while?
Yeah,
I'm going to be here.
Yep. Yeah, we are. We're not going anywhere.
Query and Company, right here. Jake Query, Eddie Garrison, noon until 3, Monday through Friday. I get to hang out with Shannon Walsh, too. That's a benefit.
Here's the other benefit. I hadn't paid my tab yet, and so you pulled me away, and so I think Shannon's going to get stuck with the tab here.
Shannon
that was
Walsh
perfect.
is awesome. Jake Query, everybody's got you at noon until 3 coming up on Monday, the recap. We're going to go have some drinks right now. Thank you, brother.
All right.
Jake Query right there. Dev, great job out of you. James back in the studio. Rayfeld Davis, Chris Kramer, Bob Lovell, Don Fisher podcast. 1075thefan.com. JMV takeover tomorrow night, 6 until midnight. B105.7 cannot wait. If you missed it earlier this week, our conversation with Boilermaker head coach Matt Painter is now. Hey, joining us now, the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. He is the head coach of the Boilermakers. Round about 10:09 is what they say, probably closer to 10:30. We shall see coming up on Friday night. Lucas Oil Stadium, Game 2, Sweet 16 against the 1 seed Houston. And the head coach, Matt Painter, joins us now. Hello, Matt. How are you?
Doing good.
I'm going to look back those games in Providence and then move forward and preview Kelvin Sampson's squad coming up for Friday night. But I would start at this from what I watched. You had to be really happy with the rebounding that your team put forth, really, in both of those games, and especially in round 2 against McNeese.
Yeah, our guys did a really good job of just being around the ball. I thought our guards really helped out. Trey Kaufman had his best rebounding game in our last game, got 15 rebounds. But we just got production from a lot of different people being around the basketball. I thought that was going to be so important. Sometimes it's chasing down the rebounds as much as going to get them. And you got to be able to do both. And our guys were on it that weekend.
Does PJ put together thoughts in the way you guys approach things in that second round game against McNeese? Is that handled by different assistants, and who handled the one against McNeese? I was curious.
Yeah, we don't do it from a whole standpoint like some people do it. We break it down to Terry Johnson and Paul Luss split the defensive scouts. Brandon Brantley has personnel. Sasha Stefanovic has out of bounds and side out of bounds plays, and then PJ runs the offense. So really, outside of Terry and Paul, who split the games, all those other guys have every game. So we do it like football.
Yeah,
because you just got one opponent. Just think about everything I just said, and now one assistant's got all of that, which I'd rather collaborate. I'd rather have people having a focus so their mind's not cluttered to where, like, when we get to out of bounds and side out of bounds plays, like Sasha's on it. Like, and like PJ from an offensive standpoint, that's the only thing he's worried about. Coach Brantley, only thing he's worried about is the personnel, the tendencies, just really just going over the top analytically about what guys are good at, what guys, go left, go right, pull ups.
Sure.
Do they get all over the rim? All of those, tendencies, he's on top of it. So it allows you to, to kind of stay in your lane a little bit, but it allows us to be really good in each area because it's such a focus instead of one guy has to absorb all that information and then just handle it. And that's the way we used to do it. I thought it was too much.
Hey, Matt, I thought that it would be difficult to prep in such a short period of time, for example, for a second rounder. But I kind of wondered how you guys handle that. And it seems like that's more compartmentalized and more cohesive, I guess, for lack of a better description, especially in those short-term circumstances.
Mm-hmm. And if you're not used to going against people who switch 5 ways, it's difficult. Like it was, even though we had some success, it's still difficult. But we've played some people that have done that through the years, and PJ did a good job of having us prepared.
It's Matt Painter, the head coach of the Boilermakers. Houston is the matchup coming up on Friday night at some point after 10 at Lucas Oil Stadium. We watch them. They're good. What do you guys see in preparation for that Sweet 16 matchup?
Well, more than anything, like they're balanced. They have a very efficient offense. They have the best defense in the country. They're the number 1 ranked 3-point field goal percentage team in the country. So I think that's where you kind of see the difference. Like their big guys can go make plays. Their guards can go make plays. They make threes. They kill you on the glass. They are superior defensively. So that's a good recipe for success right there. When you can be efficient from an offensive standpoint and be dominant defensively. And so, like, if one thing is struggling, they can dominate in the other area. But if both areas are dominating, that's where they steamroll people.
Well, you guys really have to be good, like top-notch in different areas. Don't get me wrong, a lot of areas, multi. But what's the focus going in? We have to absolutely be good in this area Friday night. Where would you start?
Yeah, I get this way with no matter who we play. Like, you got to be able to play without turning the ball over against their pressure, and then you got to be able to get a rebound. Like, if you can't score, like, on the glass against them, and you can't score in transition, and you got to do everything in the half court, it's just too hard. It's simply too hard. And so, like, that's going to be an important piece for us, is to be able to run offense and get a quality shot without turning the ball over, so you don't let them get in transition, and then being able to keep them off the glass. But that's easier said than done. They're very, very good in both of those areas.
You like what you've been getting off of your bench? And I did want to ask you how you utilize, for example, Miles coming off the bench, because I thought maybe I was wrong. It looked like you had him in there. It was a smaller lineup, but he was utilized as a 4. And I don't know how often I've seen that with you guys. Maybe it's happened. I just haven't seen it, but I was curious.
Not much. We've done it a couple times. But like when those teams that are smaller, mid-level teams, they'll just use their quickness against you, and they can really put people in a bind just with their overall quickness and their pursuit to the basketball. But I thought he played really well. I thought he did a lot of really good things, for us in Providence, not just in the last game, but in both games. He's somebody that can help you, like, because he can make shots, but also you saw him, like, get on the glass and do a good job. Jakari did a good job of getting on the glass. Cam Heide did a good job of getting on the glass. So, when those guys come in and be able to do that. But no, I thought Miles did a really good job of giving us lift. He made that big three late. He did a good job defending, and he's made progress. He's gotten better, and that's what you want, from his freshman year to his sophomore year.
Seems like both those games, too, getting on the glass was key, and especially on the offensive end, Matt, you guys got high volume and opportunities, and I would think that that's what would be necessary coming up on Friday night against Houston. More opportunities means more options, more chances for you to score, and if you do that on the offensive glass, then I would have to think that that's something you're looking out for on Friday night against that team.
Yeah, just like anything that comes down to the possession war in any basketball game, no matter who you play, is really important. If you can handle their physicality, but also not constantly be in help. When you're constantly in help with them, and then you don't have good rebound balance. Sometimes when it's straight up, it's hard to rebound against them. But if you're rotating too much and you're rotating and one of your guards has got to crack down on one of their bigs, good luck. It's the reason heavyweights fight heavyweights.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
And so, that's going to be important for us. Our ability to keep the ball in front of us and contain it. But you got to break their rhythm, too. So, you can tell you just keep them in front, you're going to be good. No. They'll dribble in place and stick threes. You got to break their rhythm and also keep them in front, knowing they're going to get by you at times, and your help's got to be there. But when your help's there and they take shots, sometimes that miss is as good as a make because there's such good offensive rebounds. So that piece we're going to have to collectively do a good job rebound. It's going to take everybody, on our team that gets out there to be able to keep balls alive and be able to get basketballs and keep playing. They do a great job of tapping out. Sometimes they tap out and they get it. You got to keep playing now. Try to break their rhythm there. Just don't let them get those tap-out threes that can be killers.
I know you got to run here. I did want to ask you because I think you kind of you're asked that this past weekend, but you go to the Sweet 16 and the portal now we know is open.
Right.
Listen, everybody's glad you're in the Sweet 16. There's no doubt about that. 6 out of the last 8 years. But how do you balance the dynamic of both right here?
Yeah, well, I was on the committee that handled it, and they put the date, which is now at April 23rd, for the portal to close. It was in mid-May, I think. I don't know the exact date. And so we moved it back, I think, about a week. And then after we went, we said we needed more time because a lot of coaches across the country, they were upset that it was closing in the first week of May or the second week of May.
Right.
And now that's just when it closed. And you still had to bring guys on visits. So, guys were recruiting for the next year into June and July. And then you're starting your recruitment for the following year in the last 2 weekends of June for high school kids and obviously in AAU in July. And so, there was no break. There was no break. You were finishing your season. You were recruiting. You would go right into summer recruiting, and then you would get a break at the end of the summer. There was no break in between the season and your summer. So, when we moved it back again, that's what we went to all these coaches and said, we can move this back, but we're going to have to open it during the tournament then. Because if you don't open it to the tournament and you wait till the tournament's over, you're going to push it again into May, and the coaches didn't like that. So, yeah, it is difficult. So those coaches complain about it, understood. I totally get it. And I'm in that position and been in that position the last 2 years, even though we didn't take somebody in the portal last year, and this year we will. So it is different, but that's what, 80% of the teams are done. You got to understand that. 85% of the teams are done. So you got some people in the CBI, the CTI, the Crown, the NIT, obviously 16 teams in NCAA. I don't know what that number of teams are, 40, 50, whatever. But you have over 300 teams, the vast majority of them, that aren't in there. So, no matter what we did, we could have kept the date the same and then finished it at the end and opened the portal at the end. But all these coaches, complained that, this is too much and we don't have any time off and we got to move the date back. So we may move the date back, and now people obviously complain that they're opening it during the NCAA tournament. So a lot of times coaches don't quite know, because they're not like with the NABC and they're not on a committee. I was on the oversight committee for men's college basketball for a handful of years. I've been on other subcommittees, so I've worked a lot of this stuff, and you try to do what's best for everybody. So a lot of times you just kind of think Purdue, high major, Big Ten conference, and you can't think that way. You got to think like what's best for all levels, what's best for Division III, Division II, NEIA, low major, mid major, high major, and it's not going to be the best for everybody. And that's why a lot of people think that, some of the rules need to be bracketed to where the high major teams or the mid to high major teams, whatever it might be, have, kind of separate rules and separate things in these situations. But I know there's a downside to whatever decision you make here. And here's we went to try to help out kind of finalizing our spring recruiting and not let it get into the summer, even though I think it still does in certain occasions, especially with guys who take new jobs. That is really hard because you got to get a whole new roster. Some people got to get a whole new roster and they're returning. Sometimes that's a little bit different than someone who takes a new job, because now if you take 10 to 12 people, there's no way 10 to 12 people in one recruiting class you're going to have success with all those people. That's impossible. So say you have success with half of them, well then half of them leave, and just because you had success doesn't mean that they don't leave. So you get into a lot of different dynamics with coaches taking new jobs, with coaches that are returning, with people that are in the portal more, and teams that only try to take a guy or two like we do. So there's a lot of different approaches to it. But, I heard a couple coaches say hey man, this isn't fair to my team. And they're right. They're 100% right. But whether you like it or you don't like it, you got to be able to adjust. And sometimes as a head coach, or you got to delegate some things at this time to where you got some people on your staff. You got 12 people on your staff. Get 2 or 3 of them and say, hey, we're going to need these 2 positions. But the other issue that comes into it is our seasons aren't over. We don't know who's leaving.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so now you got to kind of put out feelers now when it opens about everybody, because you simply don't know. You got a good idea who could be or whatever, but everyone has surprises. So it's a hard thing to gauge. It's like scheduling. When people say well, put your schedule together and do this, this, and this, and you're this team was great last year. They should be great again, but you don't know. This team right here really struggled, and now they can flip it real quick. Michigan, take Michigan, for example. When he took the job, look at their roster. Look at their roster. You're oh, man, the guy's got to sign 8 guys, 9 guys. Went out and did a fabulous job. He's in the Sweet 16, got second in the Big Ten, is done great. But, how many guys can say that, right? There's people out there that had success that way, but there's also people that looked at it oh, man, that team's going to be great. That team's going to be really good, and they're not. Because once again, you're trying to piece it together, you're trying to get that cohesive group to play well together. That's hard in a short amount of time. That's really hard to do in a short amount of time. So there's a lot of different scenarios, and there's a lot of different things that are out there, a lot of moving pieces. And so, but when you get and you're making decisions and you're on those committees and you're doing it, and there's no perfect answer, that's what stinks. It just stinks, because you want to do what's best for your coaches. Because when I was on those committees and the oversight committee, you're not representing yourself. You're representing all the coaches in the country, and there's a lot of different opinions about things. So you try to really gauge the low major coaches, the mid major coaches, the high major coaches, Division II, Division III, and then just try to get a really good feel on what's best for the numbers. You don't make rules for the 20%. You make rules hopefully for the 100%, but that's not the case here, no matter what you do. So you get to where it's the best for the 80 to 85%, and then the other ones, that's a tough pill to swallow.
In closing, do you feel confident? You know what your roster looks like next year?
Nope. How can you? It's not your opinion. It's other people's opinion. And so, that's the important piece. Everybody could come back. You could have 2 or 3 people leave. You don't know. But I always look at things from this standpoint. Is that the same for everybody else? Yeah. Everybody else is in that same boat. So, it could be advantageous for you. Yeah. It could be a disadvantage for you. It could be somewhere in the middle. So, hey, The only thing that you can do, like in these positions, is be honest. Like, just be as honest as you can at projecting, here's where you are, here's where we see you. But, like, we've never promised guys stuff. So it's always on earning ground. And they have opportunities. Like, when you get into the spring after the season and you get into the tournament, there's no opportunity to play in front of your coach. You know, when the season's over, you take 2 weeks off. You can't work out during dead week before finals, then finals. You might have a week where you can work with your guys. So that doesn't move the needle. When you get to the summer and you start, you know, and you got your 8 weeks right there, you got time to impress your coaches. You got time to do some things, to get in front of other people. Then when we start school, we get at it right away. You got about another 4 to 5 weeks before you start official practice where, like, you can move that needle, man. Like, you can get by people. So that competitive feel is something where you got to really make strides, especially when you return. Because when you return, man, you should have an advantage over people walking in that don't know what's going on here. Whether they have experience, they don't have experience. You get them in the portal, or you get them from high school. So, like, that, those pieces are things that you just got to hold true and be honest with guys. But it's different. Like, you got to hit them with, like, hey, here's where we are, and we got to figure out who's going to be here when everybody's here. Now, okay, here's where everybody's money is, and then we go from there. It's a different world, and you have to adjust to it. You have to adapt. Like, the guys that keep complaining and going on and on and on, it's like, hey, man, I don't know what to tell you. This is where we're at. We didn't make the rules, but we got to abide by them, and we got to adjust to them, because if you don't, like, you'll get left behind, and I don't want Purdue to be left behind.
Hey, buddy, congratulations. I'm hesitant to say that because there's still work to be done, but we're really happy with the work you've done once again this season, and we'll see you down here at Lucas Oil Stadium coming up on Friday night, man. Go get them.